So, we're doing another podcast episode, everybody.
Hello, everyone. Welcome
Um,
back.
I wanted to say we're going to maybe try to make a bigger effort here. So, in the last one, I'll just say in this one going forward, we're going to try to make an effort to kind of respond to the points to generate, like, the purpose of this is to generate discussion. So, we don't want to really, be directly responding, like arguing with the video, getting angry or anything like that. So I'm gonna try to make an effort here to just kind of take what's being said and use it to just have our own conversations essentially. I think that'll be more healthy of an atmosphere and everything like that. So, do you have anything to say before we just begin?
Maybe a little tangent before we get starting.
Okay.
Since we've gushed so much about the Metroid Prime remaster last time,
Yeah.
I kind of feel bad for not noting a little thing that's kind of weak about it, that's kind of shitty about it.
Okay.
And I don't think we need to talk about that very long because we will probably be on the same page here. But it's very unfortunate that someone decided to not credit the original staff members of the development team of Metroid Prime by name.
Yes.
They are just being alluded to, like
based
this
on the
game is
based on the
based
work of Retro Studios or something like that, right?
Yes, which would be fine if this was a complete reimagining, which just is based on Metroid Prime.
But
But it's still the same engine, so you're playing code by people who are not being credited.
Yeah.
It's probably an oversight, I would assume, because
I
the
think
credits are
they
so
didn't-
long
yeah.
already.
There were so many people working on just the remaster that the original credits, you would have credits that was like 4 times as long or some shit like that.
Yeah,
But
but still, it should have been in there. Just
at
make
least
the text tiny
at least
or
the major
something.
figureheads could have been, mentioned. Mike Wicken,
Yeah,
Brian
yeah.
Walker. I don't think Brian Walker was on the team at the time, was he?
I'm not sure, actually.
I don't know.
But still,
But for sure, Mike Wicken
it's unfortunate.
should have been mentioned.
Yeah. So,
Miyamoto,
as I said,
maybe?
there's not much to... Yeah, Miyamoto often gets forgotten in discussions around Prime. He was really important for that project.
He provided the spark that was needed to start the retro furnace, right?
Yeah, he basically beat these very talented developers back into their senses and told them, I know you can make a good video game, now just do it!
Yeah.
I'm gonna show you how.
I don't know what all he said, but based on his ideas about switching heads and everything like that on that one interview,
FatBrett, yes.
I figured like his input may have been a bit more just inspirational and a bit less like hands-on kind of. This is what you need to do,
Yeah, he also had the idea to make the game first person, if I remember correctly, which is really funny.
Well, hats off to Miyamoto, man. Like, goddamn.
Because Metroid Prime was kind of shat on for being first person. Like, this is a Western studio, they're just making a first person shooter game out of it. And then it turns out Retro wanted a third person game, and it wasn't Japanese influence that caused it to become first person. So
that is interesting. Yeah.
So anyway, Metroid Prime Remasters is still awesome, and even those people which haven't been credited still said they all really like the remastered version, but their names should still have been in the credits.
Yeah.
I think we are on the same page there.
I agree. Yeah, if you can't be exhaustive about it, at least get the people that were the most important credited. They did that with Samus Returns, right? Like they credited Kenji Yamamoto for the music that they reused.
Yeah. We still don't know to this day how involved he really was in Samus Returns. It's kind of vague.
Yeah, that's why I left it so vague in my long form video. And well, shit, I was gonna say something about Samus Returns. It left me. Oh,
if we get into these,
did they credit Kenji Yamamoto in the Prime remaster?
Yeah, but I think it was a bit of a weird credit. Something like audio supervisor or something,
Hmm.
which is a bit of an umbrella term, so it's not wrong, but he's also the music composer, and I think he also made a lot of the sound effects.
Yeah.
So, still, it's weird. It's really weird, you know? Like, you're fighting a space pirate, and his behavior is determined by code written by people who are not being credited. That's
Yeah.
just strange.
That's just wrong. Yeah. But I guess yeah, that it is what it is, I suppose.
Maybe it will get fixed in a patch.
Yeah.
If not, that's unfortunate. But
Yeah, the same patch that's gonna fix all the reflections in the game.
so yeah.
Yeah, I guess
both appreciate
we both appreciate
every member at Retro Studios.
Oh yes, yeah. Hearing all
Old
those
and new.
interviews, really just it made them like human in our eyes. Like we can kind of sympathize with them. We can see their perspective and everything. I liked those interviews.
Yeah. Kiwi Talks interviews kind of blew up recently because of the Prime remaster.
Oh yeah.
Which is cool. Which is awesome.
His interviews are so valuable. It's crazy he was able to get a hold of those people. He's got some kind of connections.
Maybe.
Yeah, put it on the Metroid Academia playlist. Like there's a lot you could still add to that playlist.
Yeah, I don't want it to grow too big, you know?
Yeah, you're right.
I want it to be somewhat selective, but those are pretty good. I'll consider it.
Maybe at least the Mike Wicken one, and maybe the Brian Walker one as well. I think is very valuable.
Anyway,
because it gives insight into retro when like Prime 3 and Tropical Freeze was being made or returned.
Yes.
Okay. Anyway, we have a main subject of this podcast right now that we need to get into. So we've stopped at the 30-minute. Okay. Let me hold on. I gotta go back to the 30-minute mark. Where are we? 30 minutes or so. We might have to retread a few points. We'll just skip past anything we've already covered. But yeah. So let's just go into this trying to generate discussion, not necessarily be all argumentative and you know, trying to get comebacks and stuff like that, you know?
Yes.
Hey, no, wrong way.
All right,
the story is happening over here. It's very clear that even though some backtracking is allowed, the true experience is meant to be a straight shot through each story moment, strictly obeying Adam.
He suggests that the music following the story rather than the levels is another way the game keeps you on a tight leash. It's true that it doesn't facilitate explorative gameplay as well as it would if the music always matched the levels, but this is again just a massive exaggeration. The music doesn't force you to do anything, it's just music. He talks about how the true experience
should we skip
is
through
meant.
Anything that we've already covered? I think I could just like hit tab on it.
Evidence of this claim is that the music doesn't change based on
Discussion of almost any other part of the game necessarily warrants.
We talk about the iron grip and all that. A lot of the arguments I think come down to either semantics or clarity. I've noticed where I think that if there's one thing that you can criticize me for, it's not being clear enough about what I mean when I say certain things. And that, I think, is what really generates a lot of friction here. And that is something I could have improved on. The only thing is like I write the script for myself because I understand myself, right? And and you know, you try getting someone to test watch 7 hours of video essay. Like nobody's you know? So like,
you gotta pay
how do
for this shit.
The only way that you can actually improve on this is just to put some stuff out there and get people to like react to it, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Mention of that iron grip. For the vast majority of the game, Adam dictation, little thought of the play.
Going to that spot on the map is never as simple as walking straight to it. Water, not actually.
And he's kind of
giving
the whole thing about hallway simulator, you know.
After obtaining bombs or being stuck in Metroid, but you are misrepresenting the game. Adam's supposed iron grip is massively exaggerated here. Yes, it's not as open-ended as traditional Metroid, but you are misrepresenting the game incredibly. Each sector is a maze and a puzzle that you must overcome, not a straight hallway shooter with the player on a leash.
Yeah. So okay, there's a way you can look at Fusion, which kind of you can look at it like this kind of micro series of Metroidvanias if you want, where it's like each sector that you go to is its own little, like, the same way you look at Metroid Prime 2 or something like that. But
Samus Returns.
it's like if you take the experience holistically, your ratio of just like how many times the game interrupts the flow of your exploration, and of course it's not even just that your exploration gets to flow in the first place, because you're already like directed to a specific thing, and you're like, okay, this is exactly what you're gonna do here most of the time, so I lost my train of thought.
You were thinking about how Fusion is basically a series of mini Metroidvanias connected to each other.
Oh, I mean, yeah, it's possible to think of it that way. But if you take it holistically, you're gonna just, if you treat it like it's a whole experience, it's gonna just be a whole experience full of interruptions. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, guess it depends on how you're looking at it, I suppose.
There is lots of room for experimentation and exploration, it's just all done within each sector.
Yeah.
Most new elements.
And it didn't used to be that way, so that's kind of the source of my frustration, if you want to call it that. Yeah.
Are hinted at or fully explained by Adam before you've even seen them. It leaves very little room to discover much at all. There are the occasional bosses discovered without introduction, like the box robot, Yakuza, or the plant thing, but they're in the minority. Once the intricacies of a new threat are fully explained, the threat loses its fear factor and becomes a mere obstacle. Part of horror is the fear of the unknown, the unpredictability of life. By telling the player
Can I
exactly...
ask you something?
Sure.
How does the noise levels look on your recording? Does it look like it's kind of drowning you out, or is it like a manageable level?
The thing is that my recording lines are very subtle. It was like that the last time too. I can barely see the recording even. It looks
Okay,
just
so,
like a line.
Well, it'll be what it is. I think
We're just gonna try.
we'll just, if we got Robot Phoenix for an episode, we got Robot Phoenix for an episode.
It's not gonna be an issue long term. Because
Right,
I'm
well,
planning on getting a new PC and
yeah.
microphone and stuff, so
Get-
eventually it will all work out.
If you need a starter microphone, get like a Samson Meteor. That's what I've been using for years.
We'll talk
Okay.
about that outside of the podcast.
Yep. Sorry about that.
and how to deal with it. You're handicapping what's supposed to be the main draw of Fusion, I thought.
During your discussion of the lack of things to discover in this game, you point out that most bosses are indicated by being told about them beforehand by Adam. My opinion is that by having Adam build these bosses up beforehand, it creates anticipation. The game also builds anticipation and tension with bosses like Nettery and the Nightmare. Saying that bosses are fully explained is simply...
What was Nettery again? What was that one?
I think that's the planned one.
It didn't really build anticipation in the same way that I'm citing here. So my issue here, okay.
What he's trying to say is that these bosses were hinted at not by Adam, but by other means, like Nitori is the source of all the plant grow which has overtaken the station.
Right, and I guess if that's what you mean by building anticipation, I don't know if I expected a boss to come after all of this plant stuff the first time around. I think that would be actually a good example of like how you can build maybe some anticipation or just whatever you want to say about just having a build up there. With Nightmare, just imagine like if there wasn't like a full explanation of what Nightmare is and how it came to be, and how how you should be so scared of it, you know. If it was just literally, you know, there wasn't Adam in the game and you were just going through and you see all this broken glass everywhere, all this busted metal, like the walls are completely destroyed.
Yes.
And then you see this fucking eldritch monstrosity rising from the floor. No context for like no context for like the limits of its existence. Like, is this a ghost? Is it like, you know? That would be a lot freakier, I think. The same way,
you know what?
It would be the same as like Phantoon from Super Metroid.
Yes, I was gonna say something similar, but I was gonna say, imagine if you've never played Super Metroid, right?
Yeah.
But you're playing Other M, and you're playing through the end game, the post game, I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Phantoon makes a pretty cool surprise appearance there. And he's pretty spooky in Other M. His new design and his abilities and his music. Something like that for Nightmare would have been awesome. And it's kinda there in Fusion.
It is, but
before you can kill it, you have to talk to Adam, and he will tell you in explicit words what it is.
Yeah, and so you kind of, at that point, you kind of know that you know, it's, you can wrap your mind around it more than if you didn't have that explanation. And then also the blue X, the ice X, you get those fully explained, so you already know not to touch them before you've even encountered one. And I think that misses an opportunity of just letting the player discover this thing on their own. There's like, they will discover the consequences of touching one of those soon enough. You don't need to fully explain what to do and what not to do around them.
Yeah, and you're told to hunt down the box robot.
Yeah.
You're told a lot about SAX. There's a couple of bosses who are being explicitly targeted by Adam and his missions, and that doesn't add too much to the experience.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been neat if it happened just once, you know, for variety. You know, you fight Box, it escapes after being defeated, and then later Adam is like, it's too dangerous, you need to hunt it down. There you go.
Yeah, something like that, I guess. But you also get the explanation for hot rooms, where he's like, if you enter a hot room, turn around and don't continue. Like, I think that should be obvious. Like, the second your health bar starts draining, like, you should be like, okay, no.
I started another replay of Metroid Dread. I'm still in the first area, so it really just started.
Yeah.
But Adam has been explaining so much easy and obvious stuff already. It's kind of annoying.
Yeah, and that's kind of that's the issue with Fusion, is like, the more just like dry explanations you get of things. I mean, you do get that sort of string section, right, where it's like dun dun dun, and then the explanation follows. But like, I feel like it would be much more effective to just keep it unknown and have stuff kind of happen to you. You can probably build anticipation in other ways. Like, you can build anticipation without just dropping a wiki article on the what the enemy is and what it does, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, the most anticipation for Nightmare does not come from Adam's talk to you. It comes from it destroying or starting to destroy
you get to
the
see
facility,
all the broken glass,
sector.
dude. Yeah, that is what builds the anticipation, truly.
And if you really wanted the player to know that this thing was an experiment worked on by the Federation, all you needed to have is one room after the Nightmare boss room, which has like a vessel in the middle and some holograms with diagrams of Nightmare, so you would immediately know somebody has been working on that thing before it broke out.
I suppose if Fusion was going for the same minimalism that Super Metroid and Zero Mission went for, that's what we would have gotten, probably. Something similar.
Yeah. Yeah, Super Metroid has
And
that very thing in the beginning with the
yeah,
broken Metroid container and the dead scientists around
that's where I
it.
kind of disagree with this notion that all of Adam's dialogue is absolutely necessary, and you could not replace it with subtext. You know.
Yeah, I actually like some of his dialogue, even in Dread. I like some
Well,
of it.
what I'm saying is, I still think you could redo Fusion basically up until Sector 6 when you discover the evil secret behind everything and get if not all information, most information, especially all the stuff that he says that just ends up being redundant, like, oh, here's how the Ice X work, oh, here's how Ceres works, oh, here's how the box robot works, oh, here's how the SAX works. Like, you don't need all that.
You wanna know how you can fix that real easily?
How?
First of all, enhance the writing, make it more interesting, like the prime scans, so people might actually wanna know about this stuff.
Well, yeah,
And
the
second,
benefit of the prime scans is
wait,
optional.
wait.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Second, make talking to Adam optional. So if you don't want to talk to him, just run past him. If you do want to talk to him, you're gonna have an awesome, interesting dialogue with him.
Yes, and I will say the person who made this video does agree with me in that sense. They will say, you know, well, okay, you should be able to skip the dialogue, and yeah, I agree with that. But I would just go a step further and just say a lot of the dialogue is can just be cut out and then replaced with subtext, and you would be able to have a better experience for that.
I'm gonna say Fusion would have more threat in it if you didn't have a companion, if you were just trapped in
Mm-hmm.
this collapsing research center where most doors are locked and you have no clue what you're doing and
Mm-hmm.
you're really underpowered,
Yeah,
disempowered this time, and
you're almost like educated on the station as you go in the game to the point where, like, you're told what to expect at like every turn by Adam, and like every time you finish a mission you get to go back to him, so like the sense of isolation, you can argue that it can be there at times, but like it is always interrupted very quickly, and I can say that that is something that happens way more frequently than Prime 3, even.
yes, yes,
All right, anyway, I think we could continue the video a little bit.
sure.
Untrue, the dialogue doesn't actually tell you exactly how to defeat that boss or even very much about the bosses at all. They're kept pretty vague, and mentioning them and foreshadowing them makes them some of the most memorable fights in the series. The bosses aren't somehow not to be feared and just obstacles simply because Adam talks about some bosses beforehand. You state that fear derives from the unknown, but that's again a gross oversimplification of a far more complicated subject. Merely talking
Uh,
Let him finish, let him finish.
yeah.
about a boss hardly gets you so familiar with it that it's no longer scary, and knowing something about something scary doesn't automatically make it not scary anymore. How you came to this conclusion is beyond me. You don't get
Here.
very
Um,
specific here, so it's hard for me to rebuttal, but I think your presented logic behind this sentiment is especially weak.
Having. All right.
I want to quickly mention that I'm a huge fan of horror,
Mm-hmm.
even more so in movies than in video games.
Mm-hmm.
And what he's arguing here is basically a very weak compromise of horror. Of course, you don't need to have. It's not like something that you understand to a certain degree cannot be scary.
Mm-hmm.
But in the end, what is scary to people is change. If you get sick and you've been healthy before, that's scary. If you lose somebody you love, that's a scary change. If you die, that's a change of state from living to dead. You don't know what to expect. You don't know whether you can control it, handle it, whether you're gonna live afterwards in another dimension or life or whatever.
Yeah.
That's terrifying. So what you want is some element of the unknown, at least uncertainty, and you don't have much of that in Fusion. Take a look at Nightmare. He's very strange with a design, cute and yet ugly,
Yeah.
huge and yet baby-like. He's phasing through walls and seems like a ghost, but then again he also seems like a robot, and then he seems like some gooey creature, and then he seems powerful, and then he seems pathetic when he's melting away.
And he melts away in
But
such a disturbing way.
but then you talk to Adam, and he just says he's an experiment. So yeah, now you know he's what he is.
Yeah.
It's a messed up experiment. So that doesn't necessarily have to ruin the entirety of horror associated with Nightmare, but it's gonna lessen it.
And I suppose his criticism here may not even be that it's lessened. He may agree that it's lessened, but the statement I made was that it loses its fear factor. That's the quote that he's
Uh-huh.
working with. So if you want to say, okay, so it becomes 0% scary, I guess, yeah, depends on who you are, right? But I
But
can't really say it becomes 0% scary.
but fear is just a heightened state of a negative state of concern a human being can feel. If you have like a job interview tomorrow, you won't feel fear, but you will feel a sensation that is related to fear. You will feel nervousness,
Stress, yeah.
stress, right? But stress is very physical often. Nervousness is more like psychologically almost.
Okay.
But if you're getting nervous enough, then it's gonna turn into fear. And if you're being too afraid, then it's gonna turn into shock or horror or terror or something. It's a gradient. So yeah, if those bosses were meant to make you nervous, then I guess they are a success. If they were meant to make you terrified, then they barely stand a chance when Adam is patting your back and telling you, yeah, it's just an experiment, go expose of it. That doesn't help your desired outcome.
Yeah, I guess.
Imagine you were watching The Thing from another world,
Yes.
and there was a character right in the beginning who's saying, right after the scene where the thing first reveals itself out of the dog carcass, and some guy just went, oh, that's why the Swedes or Norwegians or whatever were hunting the dog. It's obviously an alien organism which is able to imitate other organisms it had contact with. And what we believed to be a dog was actually an alien, and now we need to watch each other because we could be aliens, and this is a isolation scene
Someone who
now.
just speaks
Let's
the
talk
obvious.
about it. That would be very scary. Or imagine you were watching The Fly, and the guy, Brundle, comes out of the teleporter and is like, shit, there was a fly in the teleporter. Damn, I'm gonna be deadly sick. I should do something about it, I guess.
Well, he doesn't know.
Well, sure. Our point is Adam shouldn't be there, because Samus surely wouldn't know. Or maybe Adam is there, but he also doesn't know. He's a Galactic
Yeah.
Federation official or something like that.
It seems that he has
could-
documents
he
on
could
everything
be-
in here that he could pull up and just give you some Wikipedia information on.
Yeah, he was in on it right from the get-go,
Oh,
basically.
no,
He
yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah. And the real Adam personality only came through when he stood by Samus's side, which probably was not planned by whoever issued this Adam AI to oversee Samus. But
Yeah.
that's the part which works better about Adam when he wakes up, so to say. That's the story of the game.
Yeah.
That works fine, but for the Metroidvania experience, Adam doesn't add a lot.
I think if you're looking at games like Slenderman, Silent Hill, to an extent, Resident Evil, not as much. There is that element of the unknown, which you're not gonna know what all. You're not gonna know fuck all about Slender Man. You're not gonna know much about Pyramid Head or whoever the villain of whatever Silent Hill game is.
Silent Hill 2.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I still have yet to play through that. I got through the intro and just kind of haven't resumed it. But I guess, yeah, the more you do know, the more that will diminish the fear of the unknown factor of it. So there's validity to what I said, but I suppose taking an extreme stance of the fear factor just goes away entirely, I don't think that's something I agree with.
Okay.
Having played Super Metroid and Fusion on the same controller, I immediately noticed a difference. Fusion's controls are much more stiff than even Super Metroid's, despite my hearing people's complaints about the latter and not the former. And it's not even fair to compare it to the buttery smooth Zero mission. In Fusion, you accelerate very slowly, but you stop on a dime. There's no momentum happening here. It's just a slow start-stop. Compared to Super Metroid, Fusion just lacks the same mechanical nuance and precision.
You then go on to defend Super Metroid's controls and hate on Fusion's. You once
That's
again
a bit of a strong way of putting things.
don't get very specific about what your exact issues are, but you do mention that you accelerate very slowly in Fusion and that the game has no momentum. My problem with this is that you do not accelerate very slowly at all. Stopping on a dime is true of nearly every Metroid game.
I feel like this. I'm not. I want to generate discussion with this, right? I don't want to do any comebacks, but it's like, kind of, what's the protest here? It's like, the controls feel different between Super Metroid and Fusion, and I'm just kind of describing how they feel different.
Now, for the record, I like how Fusion plays. Not as much as Zero Mission, but I still like it very much. However, there is no doubt in my mind that it is not comparable to Super Metroid in complexity.
Mm-hmm.
Super Metroid is basically like Mario 64 in 2D. The stuff you can do in that is like a free-form platformer. You're giving a moveset which you can make combos out of, like in a fighting game. Just look at the crazy ROM hacks some speedrunners are playing, like Super Metroid Impossible is one, I believe, which was made because the modder thought it would be impossible to beat because of the platforming challenges. And of course, some crazy speedrunner did it, and now it's a category of speedrunning.
Well, essentially, what
I've sorry for interrupting, but I've seen videos in the style of frack videos of people playing Super Metroid.
In the style of what
with
videos?
like frack videos, in
Like-
ego shooters,
like COD,
first-person shooters.
like MLG shit.
Yes, exactly. You can do that with Super Metroid. You have like the drum and bass music or the dubstep, and you have some crazy editing, and you have highs. You're laughing, but I'm making a point about how complex Super Metroid's move set is.
Yeah, well,
And
I guess
one of the
relevance.
greatest things about Fusion is that it has a very good Metroid, 2D Metroid movement set and control scheme on a handheld. The streamlining is great, but if you don't just want to play it, if you actually want to, get good at it, there's not much to get good at in Metroid Fusion's moveset. You're better off playing Super Metroid in this case.
Okay, so I suppose the main takeaway here is just Fusion's movement system has less nuance than Super Metroid's movement system. In
Yes.
Super Metroid, you do not actually just stop on a dime. You like slow down first before stopping.
Just to be clear, all I've said right now was in agreement with you.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying anything, but essentially the only thing I was doing was just pointing out how there's less nuance here with Fusion. It's stiff, more stiff than Super Metroid at least, and yeah, even it's got even less going for it, I think, than Zero Mission. Um, and so I feel like that's pretty rock solid. I don't think there's anything to argue against there. The only well, he'll mention this, but the differences between Super Metroid and Fusion that are positive are just like, streamlining the missile selection system, and then uh
You
I don't know.
also you also have some context sensitive moves, which is great because if you're playing on a GBA which doesn't have that many buttons, then maybe it's useful to have Samus be a bit more dynamic. You don't need an extra button to climb on a ladder or
Oh
pull
yeah,
up on a corner.
those are cool.
That's great.
Those are cool.
Yeah. That enhances her movement set without complicating the control scheme. So you can easily and comfortably play this on a GBA.
All right, so I think I'll just hit play now.
Sure.
You also do not explain why these controls are bad, or why Super's controls are good.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just
We did that
it just
right
it,
now.
it's kind of it's a little silly, just being like, I made this kind of statement about the controls, saying, okay, this feels more stiff, this feels more nuanced, and then he's like, but why is that bad and why is the other one good? And then I'm just like, I didn't say anything like that, but I do have my own opinions on it, which I do prefer the more nuanced control scheme, just because it feels more weighty, right? As that's a word I used a lot when describing Super Metroid's controls. And I find it to just be a bit more immersive.
Go into no detail as to how Fusion's controls hurt the game. You show footage of you starting and stopping
And
in the
yeah, I'm not gonna say that like Fusion's controls don't work. They're not like detrimental to Fusion as a game, but they just on the surface of it, they lack the same nuance. That's really all I'm saying.
first SAX encounter. I don't think this illustrates literally anything about the controls. Super's controls get a lot of flack for the floaty jump and clumsy item selection, while Fusion is often praised for its massive improvement over the previous games.
I've heard comparisons drawn between the X and John Carpenter's The Thing. Like The Thing, the X have the ability to shapeshift into anything they want, provided they have the DNA capabilities. I'll be the first to say that this idea is cool as fuck, and I'd be interested to see what developers could do with the freedoms of an M rating. However, this concept is fairly underutilized. Don't get me wrong, there are some differences between Fusion's gameplay and other Metroid games. Pickups now avoid the player, enemies tend to reinforce each other by merging, and the ice X are extremely harmful to the player. Other than that though, the enemies function identical to other Metroid enemies. There were some missed opportunities. One detail that was so good about The Thing was the confusion about whether a person was or wasn't the Thing. But aside from a cheap
I put
gag,
the little Keemstar scream in there if you didn't hear it.
Yes.
With the little footage of Bennings from The Thing.
Yes. Poor Bennings.
Fusion doesn't really explore this idea. Additionally,
You say you think that the concept of the X being able to mimic any organism, while a cool concept, is underutilized.
Yep.
What could you mean by this? You say that the developers should have added confusion to whether or not the player knew someone was, or was not an X host. How would this idea look in the game? You see
I could give some examples. So if we're gonna go like the story route, the dialogue route, whatever, you could actually take advantage of that by having, characters that appear human, trying to help you out, and then ultimately you end up realizing they're trying to like sabotage you. They're trying to put you in some kind of cell or something, right? And then it morphs into an X parasite in front of you or something like that. That would be really cool, actually.
You could combine that with gameplay too. Like, imagine Fusion was more open, like a Metroidvania game, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you would have different routes to choose from. And maybe depending on your choice, different people get infected. Maybe you deciding to open the yellow hatch door now also opens another yellow hatch door, behind which, unfortunately, 20 scientists were hiding in safety, and now they're all infected because the door opened.
Oh, but you'll never know
Creature
that.
somewhere.
You'll never know that.
You won't know unless they show it to you and
Yeah.
attack you, but that could happen like 2 hours later.
There are opportunities here, especially if we're trying to get away from the minimalism. You can do a lot, but just not a lot is done with that concept. We get the one guy, which literally I called it a gag because it was just kind of funny. It just got a chuckle out of me when I saw like just this dude just hanging out and then he turns into an X.
I also have another idea right now.
Yeah.
Imagine every time you shoot an enemy, there's a, let's say, 3% chance of that enemy morphing into the SAX and hunting you down. You would try to avoid killing enemies, or at least you would immediately run away instead of waiting for the pickup to spawn.
Or it doesn't even have to be an
So-
SAX. It could be like anything. So like you still want to be incentivized to fight enemies. You don't want to like just avoid every enemy at that point. But it could be a rare
Yeah,
thing,
but-
right?
But maybe it takes a second, so you shouldn't like stick around after killing too many enemies, because if you shot like 20 enemies in a room, there's a high chance suddenly an SAX is gonna chase you.
Yeah. Or I don't know, some other creature. It like morphs into something even more dangerous. I mean that does happen in Fusion, so this like turning into an SAX would just I guess be the next level of that.
Well, that would scare you, that's the difference. Every
Yeah.
other enemy you can just blast away. The SAX can be really scary.
Oh, you're right, yeah. It is one that is basically impervious.
I'm
You shoot
talking
it.
about an SAX which kind of works like an Emmy, which can follow you and isn't just in
Yeah.
certain selected scripted
Okay,
scenes,
yeah,
you know?
yeah. And that's something I think he would agree with, the author of this video. He also felt that the AI for the SAX was kind of undercooked.
It all the same because
But-
X host or
These are all just ideas, and I was like, there are some missed opportunities for how you could use the X in very effective storytelling ways and very effective gameplay ways. So, I mean, he's kind of taking that, just being like, no, you can't. I don't know.
or not, creatures have always been hostile towards the player in Metroid games. If a human were to be spotted in Metroid Fusion, what could the player do? If the player shoots the human and they're an X, they die
and I think what he's describing here is a very narrow scenario, right? Like, okay, so you see a person as a NPC walking around in front of you, right?
Yeah.
So that would be one thing, but what I was imagining was like an actual like non-Adam character that you can talk to.
Yeah.
Imagine that there wasn't an Adam character and all you get are these X creatures that are disguised as scientists.
You have nobody who's reliable. You gotta decide
That
for
would-
yourself who you think is trustworthy.
At that point, you are actually approaching a very faithful adaptation of like the Thing's core concept
Yeah.
in video game form.
And it would help to make Samus more vulnerable and thus the game more scary, because all of the firepower of Samus is not gonna help you against
Anything coming out
deciding
of their
who's a
mouths could
thing
be
or not.
anything coming out of their mouths could be misinformation at any moment.
That's why, in theory, I really like the idea of the traitor called Deleter in Other M. What does it matter if you have the biggest gun arm on your fist if you don't know who to shoot? Or if you know who to shoot, but he's already got like somebody in his...
Hostage. Yeah.
He got a hostage, for example, right? That's not Samus's speciality. She's an investigator.
She's
works
heavy weaponry,
alone.
heavy artillery.
Yeah, and she works in isolated situations where basically everybody is an enemy.
Yeah.
If she gotta decide between enemies and friends, and maybe there's also
She works
a gray
deep in
area.
enemy territory. That's what she does. Yeah.
Yes, yes. That's why I
In ter-
really like the deleter idea in Other M, which unfortunately isn't played out. They basically dropped that plot point, which is
Yeah.
unfortunate.
Uh,
And
and we'll
the
talk.
X could have
Oh,
worked like that too.
I'm gonna say I've come to some realizations since our last podcast. We'll be able to talk about it in a bit when we get to like scan visor talk. There's a lot of stuff
Huh?
where it's like the issue a lot of times is a lack of good writing or good characterization. And a lot of times I think sometimes I just take an issue and think it's like, okay, if this was just like if this system from like the Prime games or Super was pulled over to this game, it would instantly be better. And the root of that, maybe not that the system that I want to pull over itself is the solution, but just good writing needs to be there.
Yeah.
So we'll get to that.
turn into free-floating X. If they're a real human, they die and Samus is a murderer and the game gets a higher rating.
Oh yeah, and he's kind of saying, well, the only scenario where you could have an X versus human scenario is if you shoot it, and then if it turns out that the thing you shot was a human, then we get an M rating. Oh well.
If the player doesn't shoot any humans, then you have heard one of Metroid's most important themes, isolation, just by having humans around.
I think it would actually increase isolation in the way that how I've heard this person make the claim before that Adam actually helps with isolation because he turns out to not be on your side at the end, right?
we're still.
Imagine you had an inherent suspicion from the start
Yes.
instead of
Yes.
discovering this at the end. So okay, with the X parasites, you could like it's such a visceral thing where it's like the human in front of me is not a person, and that would be
Or
such
maybe he
a
is.
much more visceral distrust, right?
Yes. Yes.
Um,
We're still comparing this to the Thing, so I'm just gonna say, the Thing, despite having lots of characters, is truly a movie about isolation.
and
Isolated in this science research area, but also isolated emotionally. They fucking have to lock away a guy who was freaking out and who's about to kill everyone, including himself, because how else are you going to deal with that? Just isolate him.
So what you're dealing with is okay. So like in Prime, right? You're not alone in Prime. You have the pirates that are there. You have the Chozo ghosts that are there, but they're all hostile.
Yes.
With this fusion idea, you would have a similar thing where it's like potentially everyone I speak to is a hostile entity. I just don't know if anything that they say is worth trusting. So you would still have this similar kind of isolation, right? That you would have in Prime or Super or whatever. Like other characters can exist and you can still have isolation, feelings of isolation. Anyway, I guess I can play the video, huh?
Sure.
At all. How are we to believe that the BSL is dangerous if we have other humans wandering around? Why
If they're not human,
aren't they helping? Can Samus talk to them? Having humans around fundamentally changes the whole game. Criticizing the game for not having this seems very nonsensical to me. I'm not sure you realize what you're asking for here.
There are no instances of partial creatures or an X morphing from one creature to another mid-gameplay. I'd expect a creature like the X to shapeshift often. But whether it was GBA limitations or ESRB limitations, this is absent.
Creatures shift into new things all the time. You put a little asterisk saying that creatures should do this as a part of normal operation, without having to die first. What? This is an oddly specific thing to be upset about.
This is okay. So this is a concept that I don't know if it just didn't get across or what, but so like think about any shapeshifter in any sort of action movie or anything like that. I'm gonna use Beast Boy as an example. So like when he's in battle, right? He's gonna be transforming into so many different things just to like get the upper hand, you know. Somebody's shooting, you turn into a snake to get on the floor so that you're a harder target to hit. And you might turn into a bird to fly away. You might turn into a rhinoceros. He turns into a gorilla or something. So like having that as part of the move set is what I was kind of alluding to, where a creature like in self-defense is going to transform into something else quickly enough to like evade you. You know what I mean? So that's what I was
Kinda
really
like,
getting at.
kinda like Gandrada.
She does do that sometimes, yeah. Not a lot, but I guess during the boss fight, you get her like having these different states that she's in, where she's like, okay, now I'm gonna do my Samus attack. Okay, now I'm gonna do my Berserker attack. Okay, now I'm gonna do my, you know. So yeah, I guess like Gandrada. Yeah, yeah, I'll say that. Um,
What you're trying to do here is you're trying to maximize the effect of the eggs, the potential they could bring.
mm-hmm.
And he is saying, well, asking for that is asking too much because you would need to alter fusion so much.
Well, I
But
don't even
we
think
are we
that's
would
not even
be
what he's really saying. I think he's assuming that I'm saying that because um, Fusion doesn't do this stuff, that makes it a shitty game or something like that,
no. I
or
mean,
that they did a
yeah, but
poor
no.
job with the X in like.
No. The question is whether we should have the eggs if we're not willing to make a game which takes advantage of them. Like what I'm saying is
I
that
think
yeah,
yeah,
you would need to alter fusion greatly to take full advantage of the eggs. But what's the issue with that?
yeah.
Then go ahead and alter fusion greatly. We would be willing to do that, you know?
I mean,
Um,
there was even another opportunity when they had Dread going with the X there, right?
exactly. And the eggs do some very neat things in Dread, which I'm quite happy about. But Dread also doesn't take full advantage of its concepts,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately. Most disappointing, the title, Dread. It's
Hmm.
not that dreadful of a game.
Yeah.
As a horror fan, I wouldn't be opposed to a Metroid horror game.
Like you feel more dread in the Valhalla, Prime 2's Dark World, the pirate bases on the Phazon mines, maybe the frigate
Yes,
Orpheon. At least I do. I feel more dread in those sections.
I, I agree. Rushing away from Emmys feels more like an action set piece. An
Yeah,
action set piece I actually really enjoy, but
and
I feel like I'm not enjoying it the way the developers were hoping I would enjoy it.
it's not. It feels like they weren't even trying to make it scary in the first place. It feels like they were actually softening the scares because of the way they designed the Emmys and the way they made them sound and the way they made them move and all of that. It just feels like they were trying to make them as soft as they could.
I think they may have tried to go for some uncanny valley stuff, and maybe some irony. Like GLaDOS. GLaDOS looks like
Yeah,
an Apple product. She's very
yeah,
shiny
yeah.
and comforting, and she looks like you could probably program her. She's very, you know, what do I say, easily approachable by the
Mm,
eye and her voice as well, right?
yeah.
But GLaDOS is really scary once you get to know her, and that's the
Eh, I guess if Gladys was real, you would be scared of her, but like in game, not as much. It's because you take Gladys's writing, it's all full of just sarcastic irony and all of that, so it comes across as a comedy a lot of times.
especially in Portal 2, you're right. But I think she's kind of scary in Portal 1.
For a few moments in some parts, yeah.
But anyway, the point being is that maybe they were going for this style because they thought this is gonna be a very Nintendo friendly way of making a horror game.
Yeah.
It's they probably
Yeah.
don't
You
want
know
an
what? It could have been an image thing. It could have been like a Nintendo thing.
yes. So instead of going the absolute body horror brutality terror route of horror, they were kind of like, let's do
Which
the unhinged robot mode of horror, which
they
can be
they
scary.
did they did it well in Prime 3. Even Hunters, man. Even Hunters had some more scary moments than Dread does. Like you didn't even need a monster necessarily in Hunters. It just had like the atmosphere that just fucking like okay, so you know the Vesper Defense Outpost in Hunters. I've been replaying Hunters lately.
Sure. Yes, I do. I remember
The
it.
Vesper Defense Outpost. You get to like the back rooms of that level, and it just
Hmm.
goes straight Dead Space on you. It just doesn't have all the gore and piles of bodies. It just has broken and dilapidated and dark space corridors. That's what it has. So I that's something I would have loved to see in Dread. Just more darkness, more just kind of like the music, the music for the Emmys can be kind of eerie, but it's also got like a bit of a whimsy to it, you know.
Hmm.
Like if they went just
Yeah.
full eerie instead of it having that kind of like twin, like Hollow Knight's art style. Even have you noticed? It's like even the scariest parts of the game have that cartoony edge to it, where it's just like it's still a
Hmm.
cartoon, you know?
Yes. It's really unfortunate all these design choices with the Emmy had led me to believe there's gonna be more to them, you know?
Mm.
Their design is kinda extraordinary. They are exceptionally sophisticated. Even Samus Aran can't scratch them. They seem totally overpowered for simple probing droids, and we know which manufacturer developed them or produced them, so we have a little logo and a company name, and I thought maybe that's going to be something interesting. Maybe that's the evil splinter group within the Federation. Maybe that's actually Shozotech. Maybe it's undercover
Yeah.
pirates, which have
No,
their
they
own
don't
little.
really have much of a story to them, do they? It's just kind of
Yeah,
Federation
that
tech, and that's it.
I mean, it's visualized on screen while you don't get a resolution to the Emmys. One Emmy gets to you and should have been able to kill you, but your Metroid powers save you,
Mm-hmm.
or Samus's Metroid powers save her.
Yeah.
So in that moment, you can see the focus of the story changing. You're sucking the purpose
Yeah.
out of the Emmy
Oh,
into Samus, and
that's a
now the
bit poetic
story is
there,
about
isn't it?
Samus.
You're right.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is. And that's unfortunate because I actually kind of like the Emmys. I certainly
I
like the
would have
Emmys more
expected
than I
something
like.
to be like they just don't end up being relevant to like the actual story that's taking place on ZDR. They're just more of an
And there's,
obstacle.
yeah, and then there's the whole thing with them being visually very similar to the Shotzo droids we saw in Samus Returns, like the Diggernaut and his
Yeah.
little siblings in the background. I was thinking, like, maybe somebody was able to reverse engineer Shozo tech. Maybe this is gonna be a cliffhanger for the next game and somebody has a power suit or something because they figured out how Shozo tech works. Who knows?
I know
But
we've kind of
nothing
gone
came
off
from
on
it.
a tangent on Dread now, but did you want to go back to Fusion for a minute?
We're gonna go back to the video, and if he's talking about fusion in the video, then we're gonna talk about fusion.
Yeah.
The X only truly die in this game when Samus absorbs them with her Metroid DNA anyways, but why
Oh,
does it matter that you have to shoot them before they
I think yeah, it's just kind of the point. You know, we didn't really sync up in what I was saying and what he was understanding.
transform? Are you really complaining that the X morphing after being damaged enough is somehow underutilization of their mechanics as X parasites? This argument is nonsensical. You almost go as far as to argue with yourself by naming some of the cool ways the game takes advantage of the concept of the X parasites.
It's weird, like those.
You're saying it's not enough.
Yeah,
You're not saying there's nothing, but
I'm
it's not
I'm
enough.
saying yeah, I'm saying there are some things that happen, but other than that, they're pretty much just like Metroid enemies, but with floaty. But they float a little bit, you know. When you know the pickups float basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I just went on to say, okay, here's some possibilities of what they could have done that would enhance the X more.
The game takes it even further in a ton of ways, such as the SAX being Samus but heartless.
Oh yeah, and then I think he's just he's digging into the lore a bit. That's part of the concept of the X. I don't think that's fine, you know.
Absorbing abilities, ammo.
I think he's kind of saying, what, all of this isn't enough for you, Tim? Are you that greedy, you know?
Health through your Metroid DNA, elevating the stakes to new heights in the story, furthering the story of the Chozo on
I
SR.
kind of want to try out the ROM hack he's playing, to be honest, on the video, because it looks like just what we've been asking for, just fusion but better and more free. I haven't seen him talk to Adam like once. I might have to check that out.
R388, for contextualizing the very existence of the Metroids and giving Samus genocide on SR388 massive consequences, puzzles with X parasites for upgrades, unique scenarios like the Variasuit Core X, and much more. I'm nowhere near in agreement that the X are underutilized.
The encounters with the SAX are far too rare and self-contained to feel truly threatening. Adam wouldn't shut up about how scary and dangerous it is, as if you could run into it at any random moment during the game. To the contrary, you only see the SAX during scripted encounter sequences that play out exactly the same way every playthrough. It makes the threat feel completely hollow. Once you get to know these scripted segments, they become predictable, trivial, just another task on your to-do list. Not to mention how dumb the AI can be at times.
This is true.
I'm sad that he left out the little silly segment with the AI with the music.
The SAX is a legitimate complaint I too have about Metroid Fusion. The AI is laughable and the SAX barely shows up at all. This concept could be something much greater than it is.
Get this. The type of exposition Adam gives sounds like it would be right at home with Metroid.
Alright, no, we're still, okay. I thought we skipped ahead for a minute. We kind of did.
Prime's scan system. In Prime, getting that exposition is voluntary, so already you can opt out of what you don't want to read. The scans in Prime are even color-coded by level of importance, so if you wanted to, you could just get the important details and leave behind all the inconsequential bits. With Prime's system, you also feel like you're the one doing the research, which increases agency. You're not being spoon-fed lore by a character who spouts exposition, you're reading up on the facts yourself.
You illustrate the difference between Prime storytelling and Fusion's. Which, yes, Fusion does deserve criticism for not allowing you to skip the story segments. You also throw a few jabs at the story with words like hokey, and calling Samus an errand girl.
Yeah, and in context, those should make more sense. The thing is, I think we already went over. I don't think skipping the dialogue is the ultimate solution for this, because it's like there's so much that is said that doesn't need to be said. Like you could add a lot more subtext to the game that would feel more meaningful, you know, especially when you're the one that like just uncovering it.
But this is far too big and it doesn't even actually.
Yeah.
There was a part in your video which I have to disagree with.
Oh yeah.
The color coding. You called the scans which do not go into your logbook inconsequential. Well, how do you think about those now after having watched was it 80-minute, 90-minute the section of space?
Let's
pirate
talk about my
character?
thought process here. Inconsequential in terms of the the ones that are really important,
lesser
are red.
significance. Yes.
Yeah, I'm not saying that like it's not worth reading any of that, but if you're not interested in, doing a lot of reading, you can just go for the red ones, and you'll get enough of the details that you'll get the big picture, and that's a good middle ground between not reading any of them and reading all of them.
Yes, I just wanted to say that everything you ever said is wrong, because you always have to read all the scans. That is my opinion.
I'm sorry.
You read all the scans on every playthrough.
I guess I need to re-upload my video now.
And if you forget to scan the ice sheik beds, you're just gonna restart from the beginning. That's how you do it.
I am surprised at like how casually you can just 100% Prime. Like I am not at that level. at all. I have not played it to death nearly that degree.
Actually mean anything,
I have
so
played it to death a lot, but not to that degree.
I can't really comment on this.
With this computer's inclusion, there's no
Should I comment on hokey writing or should I wait a bit?
Now let's wait.
Okay.
possibility of feeling isolated or truly feeling the weight of Samus's loss. Even worse, Samus mentally treats the computer
Okay.
as
I think now I can talk about hokey writing because it's on screen. Any objections, lady, is what I zoomed in on when I said this is hokey writing. And I will stand by that. I think no human being would say any objections, lady. You can call it a translation error, not error, but just goofy translation. But like that's and you saying that to someone is gonna come across like weird and disrespectful.
Yes, exactly. Because, as I said, I'm replaying Metroid Dread right now. And I haven't replayed Fusion before or Other M.
Wait,
so
never?
just Dread, right?
Never?
No, I mean in the recent times.
Okay.
It's just an isolated replay of Dread, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm playing this game and it's the opening cutscene and Adam is talking to me. And then suddenly he's asking, "Any objections, lady?" Without the context of what this phrase means, it sounded as if he was insulting Samus, as if he was trying to piss her off.
Any
And
objections,
I was kind
bitch?
of thinking, I told you about that friend of mine who I'm getting into Metroid, right?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm gonna have her play Dread. Before
See what her
Fusion
reaction to that
and-
line is. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask her like, what do you think about that? And she's probably gonna be like, what
So,
is
like,
he
that's
like?
weird.
Is he making a joke? Is he being sexist? Like, is this the bad guy or something?
This is where I play that line in Puss in Boots where Big Jack Horner says that was weird, shoots him.
Also, just a tiny little tangent, since we are on the topic of me introducing her to Metroid and me watching her reaction.
Yeah.
She laughed out loud in the middle of, I think it's the Phazon Mines, when she read the scan about all these poor pirates hurting themselves when trying the fucking Morphball prototypes.
Oh, I love it. It's such a good. It's so good. It's so good.
I wasn't even looking at the screen when she had that scan on
You
the
just heard.
screen.
You were like, she's just laughing.
I
You're
was
just like,
watching
what?
her. I was watching, and she was reading it because it's still written like your average screen, you know, like science team is reporting in. We did new testing, and she's reading it, and suddenly she's laughing out loud. And I'm like, yeah, that's the funniest scan in the entire game.
Yes. Yeah, that's funny. Like that's the kind of humor that really works. It's like just the hubris of the space pirates just biting him in the ass. And it's like just that it's a dark humor because they died. They fucking got completely mangled. Like
even if they didn't, they're crippled for life.
it's almost like slapstick, like in text format. It's weird.
Yes. Yes. And it's delivered so objectively and cold. It's just status report, you know?
Oh, I love it. All right,
Echoes
so
has a couple of those too.
the any objections lady, I think that line has literally survived solely on tradition and nothing else.
Yes. Yes.
There's nothing about that line that is like well written or well thought through or anything. It's survived because that's what they put in Fusion, so that's what we're gonna go with.
Yes.
But yeah, that's what I think is hokey. All that to say, that's why I think it's hokey.
Adam, even going so far as to give it a nickname. Rather than having moved on from his death, she emotionally attaches to it.
What I especially can't agree with here is that the deaths of those barely developed characters in Metroid Prime 3 carry weight despite Samus constantly following orders in that game, and
I agree with that. I actually rewatched my essay this morning, and in my Prime 3 section, I was mentioning, the weight that those deaths carry is going to be dependent on how well you can get attached to those characters in the very, very short amount of screen time that they have. And so, like, it's likely that by the time you reach Gandrada, you're just going to be like, whatever. Now, there's that, but also, I think maybe he might be talking about less about the viewer and more about Samus herself. Samus does express a lot of emotion towards the deaths of all of them. Let me go back a few seconds, all right? So let's go with it with that lens.
What I especially can't agree with here is that the deaths of those barely developed characters in Metroid Prime 3 carry weight despite Samus constantly following orders in that game and often interacting with many humans, but at the same time a computer that can't do anything to help you besides provide guidance is somehow less isolating than Prime 3.
Okay. So what's being said here is, okay, you have Prime 3. For some reason he's trying to say that the deaths of them don't carry weight because you interact with other characters in Prime 3. But what he's I think he's making 2 points at once.
Yeah. I think he's saying the deaths of the bounty hunters don't carry much weight because you don't interact with them too much, you don't get to know them very well.
I don't even think that's
and
what he's saying.
On the other hand,
I think he's
you
trying
don't get
to apply
a sense of isolation because of all the other NPCs.
Okay, so we can talk about each subject individually, I suppose. We just talked about the Metroid Prime 3 subject, but with the isolation, the times where you interact with people are on Norian and the GFS Olympus, and you talk to Dane like once in the Pirate Homeworld, but like that's just like 5 seconds. Other than that, you're not dealing with any human characters throughout the whole game. What you are dealing with at maybe like, I would say like 2 or 3 points is the Aurora unit on Skytown, and then you just have a bunch of radio messages that come in from time to time. I will say Brio, least isolating place in the game. Norian's probably the least isolating. Brio takes second. But when you get into Skytown and, you know, the radio's done talking to you, you get like a solid couple hours of just you going through and exploring and doing stuff, right?
Yeah, and really, the thing is, we're not making excuses for corruption.
Right.
Corruption is doing what Fusion is doing.
Exactly.
It's stepping aside from the Metroidvania formula to give us something more directed and more cinematic.
The reason I'm saying is because he's saying that he can't believe that I would think that Prime 3 is more isolating than Fusion.
Well, yeah, but really, when I think about great isolation in Metroid games, neither Fusion nor Corruption are the first games that my mind wanders to.
Sincerely not.
Corruption has many other advantages and strengths, and Fusion does have some too, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But when we're talking strictly isolation, I think NES Metroid, I think Super Metroid, I think Prime and Echoes.
It's interesting to me that you go back to NES Metroid to the extent that you do, since you started with Prime and then played Super Metroid and then I think finally played NES, right? Or am I wrong?
I started with Prime because it looked like the best game ever, and it turned out to be the best game ever, basically. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, well, I know that Metroid was a series before Prime. I know it was a classic 2D series, and this is the adaptation into 3D. Now I'm curious, do I enjoy 2D Metroid too, or am I strictly a Prime fan? So I went to the local retailer, and I'm like, I want one copy of 2D Metroid. And of course, the only game available at the time was Fusion for the GBA. So I played it. That was my second Metroid game. And I liked it a lot. I liked it enough where I now knew that I also like 2D Metroid and not just 3D Metroid.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went back and played like NES Metroid on the GameCube because it was included with Prime, and I just emulated everything else I couldn't get, like a physical copy of.
Yeah.
And from that moment on, I was a Metroid fan. From that moment on, every other Metroid game ever released, I played on release date.
Very cool.
2D and 3D, and even spin offs. I had Federation Force pre ordered, not because you need to pre order it. I knew the game was gonna flop hard.
Yeah.
You know? But I was gonna play
Just
it on
because
day one
you've
any
become
day.
the series sold you that hard on it.
Yes, and I'm too invested now. Even out of curiosity, I would play a bad Metroid game because I need to know. I just need to know where this series is going artistically, you know?
I think the only one I haven't played right now is Pinball.
I played that on release day because it's a Metroid game.
Wow.
Technically.
Nice. Well, okay, cool. Cool.
And,
what was our point we were making? Isolation, right?
well, yes, exactly. And I went immediate to NES Metroid because NES Metroid is still one of my most respected games in the series. I think it's great, and I think it's a bit underrated. Probably sounds crazy when I say that because it's the original Metroid. Of course, everybody loves it, but they only love to admire it. They don't love to play it. Everybody's
Yeah.
like, nah, it's shit.
I think I'm in
not
that
gonna
camp
play
of people
it.
that I respect it, I admire it, I like the game design that they started with it, but for me, it's like the real jump start for this series was Super, you know?
That I agree with. Yes, Super is the masterpiece, but Metroid is still a diamond in the rough.
Oh,
And
yeah.
to me, it's shiny enough, even in its rough state, that I like it. And when it comes to a feeling of isolation, well, you start the game, you get a jingle, you spawn,
That's it.
boom.
Yeah.
In uninterrupted gameplay from now on until you get to the ending screen.
Yeah.
No NPCs, no story cutscenes, nothing. Nothing. It's just like a rat's maze and you're stuck. Go figure it out.
Yeah. And I guess in that sense, yeah, that is the most isolating game in the series then. Uh, next to 2, I think.
2 is also very isolating, even 3 is, but 3 has the baby Metroid and a little
You start
bit of
off with
story
the scientist, you
cutscenes.
start off with the monologue.
Yes.
So there's
Yes.
it's just not as pure isolation, you know?
But you don't necessarily have to get rid of every imaginable character to feel isolated. Think of Echoes. You actually have something of a companion. He doesn't follow you around. He's just sitting in the temple and giving advice.
You talk to
but
him like 3 times throughout the entire game, so
yeah, exactly. But still, there's a living creature.
yeah.
He's your quest giver, basically.
Yeah.
And you can go back to him whenever you want, if you want to. But Echoes is still very isolating and
So I
atmospherically
believe
dense.
the reason he is highlighting Prime 3 in this instance is there's this kind of idea that I am treating Prime 3 differently than I'm treating Fusion, which I kind of took on the face of it up until I rewatched my video again, and I'm really not convinced that I've treated Prime 3 any differently than Fusion. The only differences between the way I treat Prime 3 and Fusion is literally just because Prime 3 does some things better than Fusion does them.
I agree.
So
I'm trying to think right now, is there anything that Fusion does better than Corruption? And I'm thinking, maybe pacing? Like, if you pick up Fusion for whatever reason, you're probably gonna play it to the end because it never gets boring. You just
yeah,
play through
and
it, and
it's like a bag of chips,
fun.
you know. You can eat 1 chip.
Yes,
You can eat 2 chips. You can eat 70 billion chips. You know.
you can never stop. You can never stop.
Prime 3, you're gonna have to invest some time into. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, Fusion is a bit more, like get in, get out, but have a good ride. It's like a roller coaster. It's very exciting.
A bit.
It's very thrilling.
But just
like
the way the game is so segmented between those atom sections, you could just take a shit, play like 5 minutes, and then be done.
yeah.
and it's very sectioned off in
That's
that way. With other Metroid
that
games,
may be
you can
the
do that with
reason
other
why they
Metroid
did
games.
it.
You can do that with other Metroid games. It's just that you're gonna need to set your own start and stop points.
Yeah.
Um,
Um,
yeah,
the whole reason why Fusion may be so segmented is because it's a handheld game. And many developers believe if you're making a handheld game, you need many segmented gameplay chunks. Because you never know how long that bus ride is gonna be where
Yeah.
the dude is playing Fusion on his GPA.
maybe they.
And I kinda disagree because
Yeah.
there's better solutions. Because I bought a Switch Lite recently, just because I wanted a Switch that is very easy to carry around.
Hmm.
I played Prime on that. Prime was never intended for small chunks of gameplay on the go. And yet it's absolutely no issue because if you need to pause and you don't have a save room nearby,
Just
you just press the home button and go in standby.
yep. I mean, that kind of eliminates that issue entirely. So, like Breath of the Wild, immediately it's a portable release on day one. So, yeah,
Yeah.
that's really not an issue anymore. And I guess that was kind of maybe the mentality they were thinking when they made Fusion, which I guess they kind of pulled back on when they made Zero Mission, or something happened, because like I don't know what it was, but like they went to Zero Mission, they were just like, let's do it good now. All right, so let's go.
Additionally, how do these other characters affect Samus's ability to feel loss? They could hurt isolation, but how does having Adam around suddenly make Adam's death carry no weight?
I want you to think about that sentence.
Can we
Doesn't that
hear
make
it again,
does that
please?
make intuitive sense?
Hurt isolation, but how does having Adam around suddenly make Adam's death carry no weight?
How does having Adam around suddenly make Adam's death carry no weight?
Oh, okay, that is almost like a philosophical topic now, because we all call the AI Adam, just like Samus does. But Samus did so kinda out of spite. She did so sarcastically because the AI was not like Adam, you know?
Is that what it was?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she says something like, um,
Because
this kind of reminds me
if
of
that
my.
was the case, why would she? So like, it's very confusing what her mentality is going into this. Of like, why she named the computer Adam.
I
How
think
she
she
feels
says
about
something
it.
like, out
Because
of respect and with a bit of irony,
she says that. Now, here's what I did. Okay, I think let's move forward a bit, because I think we'll have this subject introduced to us by the video.
Yeah.
You're again nowhere near specific and throw these claims out with no details or examples to reinforce these ideas. Samus naming the computer after him does not indicate that Samus has failed to move on from his death. She specifically states that she names the computer Adam because it's ironic that she's once again working directly under the Federation, and that she respects Adam. You even zoom in, removing the context given to fit your narrative.
I zoom in after showing the full freaking page. The only reason I zoom in is to like actually just show you what text I'm talking about,
Rather than the games. Where did you find the slightest shred of evidence that Samus named Adam out of some kind of emotional turmoil, especially in the face of explicit evidence on screen that suggests otherwise?
All right, so here's what it is. There is more to a character's emotional state. There's more that you can learn about a character than what they explicitly tell you about themselves.
Yes.
To me, the fact that she chose at all to rename the computer after someone who she deeply cared about and has died doesn't make sense to me. If she's moved on from his death and has coped with it well.
It's also kind of tasteless, actually. Like, I don't know. Imagine you were dying tomorrow, and the next day I buy a toaster and it's blue, and I'm kind of like, hey, his avatar was blue because of the hood. I'm gonna name my toaster Tim,
Right.
because I
It,
cared
it,
so much about Tim. He's a
it's like
stupid
you. It's
toaster
like you
now.
have. Okay, you have like. It's like me. If I were to get a new phone or a new Google Assistant or something like that, and I name it after my grandfather who has passed away,
Oh yeah,
like
that's
why would I
strange.
do that? Like the only thing is, I would think of that is if she just can't stop thinking about him, and some weird part of her was like, I need to name this computer Adam, and to me that does not sound like a stable person.
Or there's one more option.
What?
Maybe it's just shitty writing, and they wanted to have the twist in the end where the computer is someone from Samus's past. But, oh no, we don't know anybody from Samus's past because past games never showed us anybody. So now we need to introduce someone so we can later reveal that he truly is that person.
It could have been literally,
So
yeah,
how do
that
we
they
do
needed
that?
her to refer to him as Adam so that in the end scene she can accidentally call him Adam and then trigger that moment.
Yes. What they should have done is to not have this AI and
I
instead have
figured
a human character. And then in Metroid 7 or something, there's an AI which turns out to be that character.
I figured that the reason that she named it Adam was because somehow it reminded her of Adam. And to be honest, seeing Other M, I wouldn't be surprised that a cold, calculating robot resembles Adam
So,
pretty well.
yes.
The only thing is, she highlights differences between the computer and Adam at a certain point, and we can get into that in a second. But I think the main point I want to get across with this is there is more you can learn about a character than what they explicitly tell you, especially explicitly about how they feel about things.
Yeah, and I
There's
wanted to say this earlier, and then we got sidetracked, so I'm gonna say it real quick now. The Adam AI is not Adam. Like, even after it turns out he's modeled after Adam, it's not Adam. Adam Malkovich is dead. He died on the fucking stupid bottle ship.
right.
Even though he didn't have to, whatever.
Yeah.
That's a topic for a different day. But that AI is an AI modeled after the characteristics of Adam Malkovich. It's not the dude. He's dead.
Yeah. And
It's weird.
they treat it
Like,
as if he's back. They treat it
yes,
as
he's
if
back.
he's come back from the dead. And what I get into it in my actual long form video, and he has some objections to me saying this, but it is a squandering of the potential for growth that this character has, where she needs to be able to display some sort of emotional maturity in being able to move on from someone who has died, but they just don't go there with it. And I think that would have been a really good move for Fusion. And it would have reinforced all the themes of Metroid in a very nice way. So I suppose we'll hit play. I think we've said our piece on this.
1 second. Another way, that is not. I'm gonna propose something that's not very creative, but it works. Have Samus be very skeptical of the computer, and not name the computer Adam, but maybe in her monologue, which we get to experience, she talks about Adam because she's kind of like, this computer is shit. I value human interaction and human experience, just like Adam, who once commanded me. And then somewhere towards the end, it turns out the AI is Adam in some way or form. And then someone starts trusting the AI. She's like, wait a second.
So you're saying, okay, so if they wanted to keep the same kind of thing going, this is a tweak. This is a tweak you could have made.
Yes.
Okay, she starts rejecting the machine earlier on. Yeah.
Yeah, and then she realizes it's a little more than just a machine. Maybe it's wise to listen to some commands for once, because I just found out this thing is based on Adam.
Honestly, throughout the game, there's not really a lot of solid character work being done with Adam or Samus. I mean, there is those monologues that we get, which is something. But like, you could, I don't know. It's not like the logistical situation would allow for some character work to be done. But I mean, they could have had, conversations about something, reveal more about Adam that way. I don't know. I guess because he went into disobedience mode.exe or whatever at the very end. So he like
Yes.
he wasn't really human until she called him Adam. So I don't
Well,
know.
we also know that he is, at least during the middle of the game, he's more secretive about this whole undercover mission than the actual suit behind him
And I
is,
guess
like
that,
that
that's more
Federation dude.
plot work than character work, isn't it?
No, I'm just referring to the Easter egg. You know the Easter egg, right?
What Easter egg? Oh, where you do the sequence break, you speed run through,
Yes.
and you
Yes.
get some hidden
And then
dialogue.
the evil Federation dude shows up, who's only in one other cutscene when Samus isn't listening, right?
Yeah,
And the Federation dude talks to Samus directly, and he's like, "You're so awesome, we should really tell you our evil secret." And then Adam is like, "This is not a good idea, you should hang up
that's
now."
they put that in there. Like nobody's gonna see that. Like literally only
Yeah.
the best of the best speedrunners are gonna see that.
That's not canon, that's just a joke.
Yeah,
It's a joke I
I'm
actually
impressed
like.
that I'm impressed that they thought that far ahead.
Yeah.
Yet another example of Tim trying his absolute hardest to make the game look bad, going as far as to lie to his
I mean,
audience.
It's always the thing of like, okay,
Tim, we don't want to fight and
I know,
discuss.
I know.
Let's keep playing till an actual argument arrives.
Almost everything I say is usually based on something. Even if I'm not 100% accurate about it, I'm not really just trying to take pot shots where they don't exist.
Yeah.
It's about the source material just to make it look worse than it actually is.
The only reason why they'd bring Metroids back is blatant, stupid, shallow power hunger. One of the tiredest cliches in blockbuster storytelling. It's a twist so overdone it's not even surprising anymore.
This is false. So perhaps this one could be blamed on the English localization team for Metroid Fusion.
Yeah, here's where I don't even think what
No, Tim, no.
Huh?
The issue is you don't understand Metroid because you haven't read the manga.
No, I know that's where he's going with it, but I'm saying the
You don't need to say.
What?
You don't need to say anything. We didn't read the manga. We are just stupid bakas. We don't understand
Sussy Baka.
the true meaning of Metroid. It's just our fault we don't speak Japanese.
Right.
It's our fault we enjoy
It's
the version
it's a funny
that was
argument.
published
It's
to the
always
main target audience
yeah.
of Metroid.
Like calling it false while saying the English translation is also wrong. That's like, am I wrong or is it the game that's wrong?
Yeah.
Like, okay, so I thought what he was saying was wrong was that it's not a cliche or something.
In the Japanese version, the dialogue describes a different scenario. The reason that the Galactic Federation is sus is because the Federation in Fusion is secretly a rogue faction of the Federation whose goal is to use...
And this idea, the idea of this, right?
Yeah.
I see people bringing this up a lot. This doesn't change nearly anything because of the same reasons I criticize Other M, because if you realize Other M had this same plot point but brought into the English version as well, and still there were problems with it.
Well, there's problems even within this version, because I believe the line at the end about there's gonna be like tribunals and you're gonna be spoken guilty and stuff like that, I think that's in the Japanese version as well. Why the heck would Samus be in trouble if she destroyed an evil splinter organization's plans to
Right.
breed Metroids?
Right.
Like, basically, these are basically human space pirates now. They're not Federation, they're just
Exactly, and
misusing their
we'll get
position
into.
within the Federation.
I'm glad we watched that video the other day because that we can kind of get into the comparison of the execution of power hunger as a plot point. But
Yes.
I think the whole idea of the splintered off Federation still wouldn't really work because if they were that tiny of a clique, what would they do with the finished product that wouldn't immediately like implicate them, you know? If they're trying to win a war, they need to win over the rest of the Federation. If they're trying to sell them, there's going to be some kind of trail back to them or something like that.
You're thinking in game now, in universe
Yes,
terms.
yes,
You're
yes.
thinking right now, right?
Yes.
I don't even want to go there because I'm still stuck on the story terms. If you want to tell us a story about an evil splinter group doing this shit, why don't we get to meet them? Why don't we get to deal with them in the fusion story? What's going on there?
I mean, again, like it comes across like they just needed a villain ASAP, and the Federation is the easiest villain they could come up with, right?
You know what
Something
should
like
have
that.
happened?
What?
Samus survives the X infection and wakes up in that little clinic. And when she gets up, the whole station is basically empty. And then it turns out there was an X infection. And there's not even a bad guy. It's just a very sickly disease. And now she needs to stop it from spreading. There you go. Fusion is fixed.
Yeah, that could be the entire source of conflict is A, getting out of there, B, stopping it from spreading. Yeah.
And if you really want Adam in there, you know what? You meet an AI, the AI is kind of bossing you around, you don't trust it. Later it turns out it actually was Adam.
I think they just...
And he transferred his mind into the AI because he knew he was going to get X infected and he couldn't survive long enough for Samus to wake up. Yeah. There you go, I wrote a better fusion than fusion.
Yeah, and I think the twist of the Federation, they needed like a quick way to raise the stakes at the final second to give the story a little bit more juice, I guess.
How did the gaming Brit say? You remember it? What he said about that?
What did he say?
I think he said, I'm trying to quote, "The point is, the government is secretly evil is the most overused trope and lamest trope in writing."
Well, there you go. It's like a double trope now because it's like the government is secretly evil, and the reason they're secretly evil is because they just want power out of nowhere. Yeah. Despite not having that character trait throughout the entirety of the series.
But in the Japanese release, it's actually only a part of the government. Mm-hmm. As if that mattered. If we're talking about conspiracies within governments, it's always only a part of it. Do you think any bureaucrat gets a memo in the morning saying,
then the question,
good morning, sir, it's like, we are now evil?
It's like the Red Scare. Like, how deep does the corruption go should have been the question after Fusion.
Do you think, like, the secretary gets a letter every morning, like, good morning, yesterday we fought for peace in the universe, but we decided to corrupt ourselves last night at the meeting, and we wanted to inform you that you are now supposed to shoot Samus in the head.
That's basically what happens in Fusion. Like, there was no foreshadowing to this, I guess, other than like just a bit of secrecy inside of Fusion, but like there was not a single indication that there was any corruption in the Federation in any other Metroid game. Other M did, but that came out after Fusion. So anyway,
in Other M the corruption went down enough in the hierarchy where apparently some scientist whose job is to wash Samus's dirty clothes after each mission.
I'm not saying you can't introduce this, but like they don't go anywhere with it. It's just kind of it starts and stops with Fusion immediately. And Dread just kind of picks up as the Federation just being their good old selves once again. So it's
why isn't Dread about Samus and Adam hunting down like the ringleaders, the puppet masters behind
Like,
this
yeah,
conspiracy.
that should be something in the back of her mind of like, okay, even if I'm working with the Federation again, I don't know who is still on this bioweapon bandwagon or who isn't.
Yeah, it should have been about the Federation being sorry because they have a corruption issue. They didn't know about that. And now they're kind of like, you and Adam, you find out who did this shit.
Yeah. I guess we can continue playing because we can then talk about power hunger.
Use the Metroids as bioweapons. Whether they intend to sell the Metroids or use them themselves is unclear, but either way does not align with the goals of the rest of the Federation. The Galactic Federation plays an important part of the story, but the true antagonist of the game is the X-Parasite.
Yeah? I don't know.
Sure if I
Arguing
agree
the
with
true
that.
antagonist of the game, I would
mean-
say the Federation, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I personally
whole-
associate with an antagonist somebody who is sentient and sapient.
I think that
Somebody
would be
who's
more
acting.
easily be labeled antagonist. Not that, there's stories where the antagonist
the
is
X
nature,
are a
right?
threat. Sure, but the X are a threat. They are not antagonizing Samus Aran. They are just following their biological modus operandi.
Yeah.
They just spread.
Yeah.
Just like the Metroids themselves, they're not the antagonist, they are the threat.
They are
The antagonists are
they're
the
a
pirates.
device. They are a unit of power, really. In most Metroid games, they are used as like bargaining chips, units of power.
Yes.
They're not even all that rampant in Metroid games. They're most often just
usually-
kind of used as a plot point more than anything.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. The whole Metroid series kind of hinges on the idea that if anybody ever truly uses Metroids to their potential, then we're all fucked. Right now we're cool,
Yeah.
but we can't
yeah.
allow that to happen.
Point of
And
the
it
twist
never
is
does happen. We never see like a space pirate army leading 100 tamed Metroids into battle and just destroying a whole city and killing everyone.
That's what they
in it.
try. That's what they're going for. But yeah.
True, but they never get there. Nobody ever gets there. The Federation doesn't, the Shosa doesn't, the Pirates
That
don't.
is really that would be, I think, the central through line of the Metroid series is kind of who has control over these Metroids and who's going to use them,
Yeah.
is that the Federation is going to foolishly allow the X to conquer countless civilizations. There's nothing the Federation can do on their own to match the threat of the X. Saying that this rogue faction of the Federation is falling into a cliché might be true.
He has a bit of a run-on sentence going on here.
But is Metroid Fusion's story, of all stories, the one to criticize for this?
For cliches? I think what it is it's a cliche and they don't do anything with it. They bring in this plot point and it just kind of goes away after 5 seconds.
I could say that Dark Samus in Prime 3 is a power-hungry cliché, that any conflict involving the space pirates is a power-hungry cliché.
And then we can get into the part where we compare the execution of Fusion's power-hungry cliché to the execution of Dark Samus or the pirates. We recently saw there was this video detailing all of the scan logs in Prime 1 and going through and just painting this picture of the pirates' civilization, and just it was really cool to see just laid in front of us. Like, all this information was there. We all read the scans and everything, but just to see it laid out like that, the pirates being this anti-comfort, anti-compassion, anti-history race, which only cares about what something can be used for to gain in scientific progress for their war efforts. And that's kind of how the race is outlined. And so Prime goes a long way in fleshing out this alien race, which where their whole existence is how they can get ahead in wars against the Federation and against, I don't know, any other rival factions. All of that gets fleshed out in immense detail through the Prime's scan system. And so to compare that against what we see in Fusion is kind of like they just kind of flip a switch in the Federation, just being like, okay, here's some evil dudes. And why are they evil? Power hunger.
The evil Federation is so weakly characterized in Fusion that a simple mistranslation of one or two sentences basically changed its entire structure. For English players or German players, we assumed the Federation was falling towards corruption, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But for Japanese players, it was just a little illegal circle within the Federation, which was not acting in the, intention of the Federation.
It does make me wonder what the evidence actually is that lead people to these two different conclusions with the different versions. But I don't speak Japanese, so I can't actually look into it myself too deeply. I mean, maybe I could if I wanted to do my research. But
my point is
your point.
that this huge difference comes from just one little mislocalization, apparently, which just speaks words about how little info we actually got, how little personality and characterization we have for the evil Federation. Compare this to the Space Pirates in Prime. I could just write an algorithm which just takes 50% of scans out of your version of Prime, Tim, by random. You would still get a very clear personality for the Space Pirates, because it's actually in depth. There's a lot of meat on that bone.
Yeah.
It's not just like three lines in a sentence, like, oh, turned out the Federation was evil, or maybe just a part of it. That's about it. One scan in Prime has more info on the pirates than the entirety of Fusion has on the Federation.
I want to say, this is kind of why I'm inclined to just, in my video, just call it a stupid cliche, because time after time, I'm seeing just no effort being put into the villain, and all they do is just say, yeah, they just want power, and then they just leave it. Like, yeah, just cardboard cutout, just leave, he's the bad guy, whatever. Like, where they could have inserted so much character into it. We want to talk about Dark Samus. I mean, what can we say about Dark Samus? She's a creature that's like entirely Phazon oriented, right? And the goal of Phazon is to spread throughout the galaxy. It's the same goal as like the X have, right?
It's to consume. That's the goal of Dark Samus. She needs to consume everything. The pirates not so much. That came to them through Dark Samus. The pirates wanted control over everything, which is probably also why they are so curious and value knowledge so much, because knowledge grants you power and control. You control something better if you understand its inner workings.
It's kind of insulting. Like, after we get these, I know it's like my standards are high because of the Prime games, but like to see the other non-Prime games basically take the villain, just make it like, okay, this is like a good character turned evil. They did that 3 times in the series so far. I'm counting Ravenbeak because before Dread, the Mawkin weren't a thing. It was just Chozo, and then the Chozo, as you understand them, are this unified force of good in the galaxy, in the universe of Metroid. And then all of a sudden we just flip-flop, and we're just like, okay, here's now a cardboard cutout villain Chozo that we just pulled out of our asses. And he just has no development in throughout the game. So I put him
Yeah,
in the same category as I put the Federation in Fusion and also the Federation in Other M.
I would almost say that Ravenbeak is even weaker motivation than the Federation in Fusion, because at least in Fusion you can easily explain it to yourself. It's a government. The reason why evil government is such a trope, because
It's got
governments
some
tends
truth
to
to it.
go
Yeah.
evil. Yeah, you don't need much motivation. We can just assume somebody in there wanted more money. That's all we need to assume.
Mm.
But Ravenbeak doesn't have no use for money. He's talking
I
something
mean,
about like
the
rescuing.
Chozo have like given up on the desire for material possessions at a certain point.
Yes,
Like
including their bodies.
you gotta give us something to work with here, because we're going from Prime 2, Prime 3, Zero Mission, where these Chozo are these like almost monk like characters, and then you're just dropping a cardboard cutout on us.
Can we talk about a really sad elephant in the room?
Yeah.
Neither Metroid Prime, the original, nor the Metroid Prime trilogy as a whole ever got to be as ambitious with its storytelling as it originally intended to do.
Really?
What I'm
Oh,
trying to
yeah, I get what
say
you're
here
because
is
Prime 2 had some
Met-
ideas going.
Metroid was basically dead after Super Metroid. Not due to a lack of quality. The games were amazing, but they sold like shit.
Yeah. Yeah, we're all aware of that.
And Nintendo was basically like, here, Retro, do what you want with it. But then the game got so big that it revived Metroid, not just through Prime, but through Fusion and Zero Mission and later Other M and
Yeah.
so on.
Well, you were saying they started
And
work on Fusion
that,
based on the good press that we were seeing about Prime, right?
yes, that's some news, some new information we got last year. Apparently, Metroid would be dead if Prime wouldn't have been so positively received. But my point here being is, Retro had bigger plans. They basically, just like they transformed the pirates from 2D lobster people with a brain in a jar into a fully realized culture,
Yes.
they had plans for almost every element of Metroid.
Yeah.
Like, the reason why all Shozo are gone is because they all ascended, not just the Talon Shozo. Some scans indicate in the game that Talon was the centerpiece of their whole empire, not just one planet. That was the capital town. Shozo meant Talon 4.
They're like the Airbenders,
That's
man.
And another thing, Phazon was to be related with Metroids. Phazon was supposed to come from Metroids. It was a side product of their metabolism. So they were really painting with big strokes here. They were giving every facet of 2D Metroid a new meaning, a character, a
That
personalization,
is so
a
cool.
new interpretation.
Yeah.
And they obviously couldn't quite go there because then Fusion came around and said Metroids are artificially bred to combat X, and the Federation is evil now, and so on and so on. Which is why they later then changed it to Phazon comes from Phase, which is an awesome story.
The whole Leviathans thing I think is cool. Just like
Yes, it's amazing.
yeah. Yeah.
But still, keep in mind, please, Metroid Prime tried to answer the questions of 2D Metroid. It was supposed to take it to a whole new level, and 2D Metroid just couldn't keep up. That's the sad elephant in the room I'm addressing here. Like, if all Metroid games after Prime had a story as ambitious as Metroid Prime, we would now know what Metroids are, what happened to the Shozo, how the space pirates function. I mean, just look at it. We get one game in the Prime trilogy, focusing on the Federation. Of course, I mean corruption
Yeah.
by that one game. And we now have a deep understanding of the Federation like we never had before.
Dude,
Before it was
oh my
basically
God,
just
yes.
name dropped.
Prime 2
Retro
even.
could just...
Even Prime 2 gave you so much about the Federation.
Yes. Yeah. Just by a couple of corpses and a rundown spaceship.
Yeah.
We learned so much about the Federation. And they could do it anytime. Like, imagine Retro Studios made a remake of Fusion. None of these issues we're talking about would still be present. We would understand the story. We would get a resolution. We would get a sensible conclusion
And
a
perhaps
plot
they
line.
could further set up the corruption of the Federation in a way that does not feel like a cliche.
We even get that, and that isn't even a Retro Studios game I'm talking about now. We even get a little of that in Federation Force, the spin-off Everybody Hates But Me.
What?
Even that, you get some hints of the Federation slowly turning evil.
Oh,
Well,
you know what? I think the final cutscene might be what you're talking about.
the final cutscene, yes. Apparently Silex is gonna be the next villain, and he apparently became evil because of beef with the Federation. So maybe it's like a Batman Joker situation. And he's using stolen G-Fed tech.
Yeah.
And the Federation is starting to reproduce Samus' weapon technology.
I'm wondering if
which
this is
an
taking
issue.
place before or after Hunters.
Federation Force?
Yeah, Silex, yeah, Federation Force and Prime 4.
Federation Force takes place after Metroid Prime Corruption. It explicitly
when is
refers to
Hunters?
corruption. I think, if I remember correctly, between Prime and Prime 2.
Okay, so Silex doesn't die to Gorilla?
If you look very closely at the ending cutscene when Samus escapes with her spaceship, you see couple little dots escape as well,
Okay.
which are probably the Hunter spaceship. So they all survive.
Okay. Another thing I was going to
suppose
say about
they-
it was interesting because there's all these details that get left behind sometimes because there's just so much that you can't follow up on everything that the Prime games do. The merchants of whatever, the monks of Gameshi or whatever that the
Grondheim. It's a German word, so it's easy for me to remember. Grondheim.
okay, so I was gonna say another one that didn't get followed up on was in Hunters. I was replaying it lately, and the opening cutscene talks about the Federation having just onboard empath like fucking Star Trek, and that's how they found out about the Amblit cluster and the Octoliths.
Yes.
And I find that plot point to be interesting. I think they could explore that if they wanted to. But anyway, just it's cool. I just think it's cool. I just want to gush about it.
Another example for Retro Studios taking something from the 2D games and, ascending it.
Mm-hmm.
What used to be Mother Brain now, just a brain in a jar, is now an Aurora unit.
Is that what that is all about? You know what? Yeah.
Basically,
it's just that
the
Other M
AU
kind of undid that.
Let's not talk about Other M right now.
yeah.
Maybe next time.
Yeah.
But just see how much juice Retro Studios squeezes out of an idea. Like, brain in a jar, supercomputer. Awesome. That was very cool. And what do they do with it? They show us a new infrastructure, a network of AUs, which are programmed with personalities if the client wishes them to have personalities. We get to learn that their new fleet only functions because of the AU, and that they have a big advantage now over the pirates because they don't have computers like that, which is probably why they stole Mother Brain from Chozo in the first place and later stole an AU.
The
probably can't.
The only issue I have with the AUs is how silly it is that the Federation had no contingency if anything with the AU went wrong. You know what I mean?
What do you mean?
So, like, that's kind of what drives a lot of the plot points in Prime 3 is, like, the AU are vulnerable. You can steal one. You can corrupt one. You can do all these things, and there's no self-destruct. There's no, defenses seemingly against those kinds of attacks built into the
Yes
AU.
and no. Not into the AU, but I mean just look at the Valhalla. Look at it. It's completely taken apart. That was the AU defense. That ship, and the pirates left it in ruins.
True. I
Excuse me.
suppose the only thing is, like, there should have been, like, a self-destruct protocol on the AU so that it doesn't get used for evil.
Possibly, yeah. But do you have a self-destruct on your PC if a mall bot ever corrupts
No,
it?
I don't. But I'm guessing that there's a back door in most government computers to, like, wipe them if anybody gets their hands on them.
Possibly, yeah. Possibly.
Anyway, that's the only thing I thought might have been a bit of a slippery plot point. But, yeah.
But still, what I was trying to say is Prime really put Metroid storytelling not on the next level, but a couple levels
A
ahead.
couple levels higher. You're right, yeah.
Yes, yes. And that doesn't mean the older games now have a shit story, but let's face the facts. The older games are 8 and 60-bit titles.
Mm-hmm.
They are simple, which is also great. It
That's
makes
fine.
them pure.
Yeah.
Especially Super Metroid benefits from it, because Super Metroid is so pure and focused and tasteful.
Yes.
It doesn't need to be elevated. It's exactly where video games should be.
Yeah.
But Prime says, well, we are a 3D game. We are immersive, atmospheric. We want a story. We want to tell a story. Let's pay the biggest tribute to 2D Metroid ever by elevating everything we can.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just think about it. How does Prime start? The entire trilogy.
Dude.
Where do you start? On the Orpheon, right?
There's already
ship,
shit tons of things going on with the Orpheon.
Yes, and the Orpheon was once stationed in the orbit of Zebes.
I love that detail, yeah.
And it talks about Zebes. It's immediately apparent they are paying tribute to
and they're
NES
panicking
Metroid,
after Samus goes in and destroys Mother Brain.
Yes, exactly.
And then he was saying, like, they're panicking, but they're also so tenacious, and they care so little for their own safety that they're just going to keep going despite having dwindling numbers, and they're going to try to harness Phazon as quickly as possible.
By the way, if you later upload this podcast, yeah?
Oh, yeah, I will.
Maybe you should have this little YouTube info box pop up when you first introduce the video, because it's really recommendable. We should just link it, I feel like.
I did link it. Oh, you're
did you link
talking
it?
about link the breakdown of the
Yes.
scans. Okay, yeah. I was gonna say I do link
deconstruction.
the response video though. I do.
Okay.
I don't want to do him dirty like that. I don't want to do him dirty and not link it.
No. Link both videos.
Yep.
I'm just saying, the video is called The Space Pirates: A Deconstruction of Villainy by FatBrett.
Yeah.
And it's
so
really
beautiful
recommendable.
that video. Yeah. So I don't know. I think we should keep playing the video.
Sure.
That Emperor Palpatine is a power-hungry cliché.
Palpatine.
Just
Palpatine, is he super cliche? I think. Now we're just going to be talking about Star Wars. I don't know if I want to get into Star Wars discussion.
let's not get into Star
because
Wars.
something is a cliché doesn't mean it's bad.
Cliche doesn't automatically equal bad. It's it's what you do with it. And the reason I just outright be like, this is just a stupid cliche and I don't want to see it anymore is because I've seen it just completely half-assed so many times in the series that it's just like, you're obviously not going to do anything with it, so just stop it, you know? Anyway.
informs her that the Federation plans to capture and use the X and SAX.
I made that point even in Dread. It's not that using that is always bad, but I said in every instance of it that I've seen so far, it serves as just a shortcut, just a dumb way to make a character evil for no reason.
As bioweapons.
You're so stupid!
At this point, they've gone full retard. The Federation's boner for power supersedes any and all rational thought. Metroids were one thing, but this is pure stupidity. These fucks think they can contain an airborne liquid that kills you on mere contact, uses your entire life knowledge and experience against your peers, and can penetrate airtight armor. Man, whatever happened to good old-fashioned guns? Remember those? Wasn't it much
This was
simpler?
me kind of... You know the part in Gaming Brit's thing where he was like... I think I'm kind of like... If not parodying, then just straight up plagiarizing his video. Like, I don't know. I think he put it really well. I guess I should have just featured his video on there, but like, sometimes you're just subconsciously influenced by people without realizing it.
Yes. Also, you said it's pretty stupid to try and tame an infectious liquid which kills you on contact, right?
Yeah.
That's why the Federation wouldn't try that. Even an evil Federation wouldn't try that.
They're not
you know
that
who would
stupid.
try that? You know who would try that?
The pirates.
Of course.
The pirates would absolutely try that. Yes.
They would fucking
because
love
they don't
the
have
X
any
viruses.
regard for safety. It's like it's missing from their cognitive functioning. Safety just doesn't occur to them.
Yeah. It's so low in the list of priorities. It basically just means safety is only important if the lack of safety impedes our progress.
Yeah. Yeah.
To use armies
If we
to
can
handle
throw enough of our men at it and eventually overpower whatever it is we're trying to do, then we'll do that before we actually implement any safety protocol.
Yes.
conflicts.
It is foolish for the GF to want to use the X as a weapon, but that's the point. This faction is absolutely fucking stupid, and it's...
It is. I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
He's describing
They are
describing kind of the
definitely doo-doo heads.
stupid.
up to Samus to stop them. The limitless potential of the X
And
is
yeah, that's kind of
seen
where the
as
story's left at. They're doo-doo heads, and you have to stop them. It's just like not very compelling, is it?
something to profit off of rather than to be feared by these guys who have already risked everything for something exactly like this.
It's like the excuse of like someone being crazy, and you could just excuse any kind of behavior, whether it's logical or not. You know?
Yeah.
Oh, it's like, oh, the Joker wouldn't do something so tactically stupid, and it's like, no, but he's crazy though, so therefore he can do whatever we can do whatever the writers want him to do because he's crazy. You know, it's like the stupidity is another excuse for that. You know.
Yeah.
These guys were foolish enough to breed Metroids, surely they'd want solely with even greater potential. They've already taken a tremendously dangerous
And stupidity and arrogance and power hunger are all great excuses to have the characters do whatever you want regardless of logic. So combine all of those into one character, and man, you've got plot device central.
risk, so of course they'd see the X as a potential for militarization. They can easily mass-produce the most powerful technology in the universe just by reproducing asexually. An
And now I
opportunity
think that is an interesting idea. Now, I don't think that was relayed to us, but I think if that's what Fusion would have gone for, I would be on board for this. The idea that the reason they want to capture X, or maybe not even capture X, but they just want to study X to figure out how they are going to perhaps learn from its division, asexual division, or something else to be able to create something of their own that is modeled after the X, not directly just use the X as a weapon, you know?
Yeah.
The reason I assume that it's the latter and not the former is because in every other like bioweapon story that we've seen in the Metroid universe, all they're trying to do is just keep them as pets and sick them on their enemies. Like that's even a thing in Jurassic Park. It's not about reverse engineering these animals. Most of the time it's about just using these animals. And I didn't have any reason to assume it would be any different with the X, but I think if they did make it something cooler like that, then that would be a step up. That would. What you had something? You had something?
Oh, I was just gonna say the pirates in Prime say something like that too. They're basically like, alright, we may not be able to figure out how Metroids work, but we could still tame them and just use them as our attack dogs, basically.
Yeah.
Research
Yeah,
the X and
that's what the pirates did. That's what the Federation did. That's what Chris Pratt did. Or
Oh, man,
not
let's not talk
Chris
about-
Pratt, but the other guy,
Yeah.
utilize their unique
The other
abilities.
guy.
the laser pointer,
How is he called again?
the
Damn
laser
it.
pointer raptors.
Oh man, that scene, that whole movie. If we ever feel like doing a podcast on something not Metroid,
Yeah.
we can.
I was
Talk
thinking we
about,
could do podcasts
Jurassic
and other
World.
stuff too. There's like other games
I'm gonna
stuff.
cringe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Is of course going
do
to
a
be
podcast on The Thing.
appealing to these
Oh.
guys. And about the Federation not sticking to just using guns, these guys have been at war against the space pirates for a long time. This particular faction may want to sell the X or Metroids to the highest bidder, or turn the tides in this long battle.
Hold on a
I
second.
think that
Aren't the pirates defeated
yeah, by
at the point of
by
fusion?
the point we get fusion, there are no more space pirates in the Metroid universe. Super Metroid was the last we seen of the pirates. Unless there's just some hidden faction somewhere that will show up in some future game, there's no indication. So that kind of pokes
But
that
you
just
know-
kind of pokes another hole in the power hunger thing. It's like, what are they trying to achieve dominance over? There's nothing else to
Yeah.
do. Like you've won.
They are already the government of the galaxy.
Exactly.
Maybe they are fighting against Rick Sanchez. That would explain a lot. But
Rick-
you don't get that joke because you don't watch Rick and Morty, right?
Not enough to know what the joke is.
There's a Galactic Federation in Rick and Morty, and they are kind of the evil guys.
They
and
wanna-
Rick is much better
they
evil,
wanna fight
but
back
they want,
against
they
Mastaba
want Rick
Snoopy.
dead.
If you remember, did you end up playing that text adventure?
Just for a while, yeah.
I love it. I love the idea of it.
Whatever their reason, they are equally as power-hungry and cliché as every other Metroid antagonist.
Execution is, that's all I have to say.
You seem to misunderstand the purpose of the twist, which is to raise the stakes and to set up Adam's character to make an important decision.
I'm aware. I'm aware of that.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's good, particularly.
Another thing Fusion changes about Metroid is that Samus now speaks. I guess that silent protagonist rule wasn't enough to keep her from calling out the absolute bullshit on display. She gets all emotional because the Federation are actual idiots.
Samus being a silent protagonist is not a rule.
I think the Prime games would differ, but I mean by the time you hit Fusion, you've got Super Metroid, which is basically the only game that had a chance to give her some kind of dialogue. I think the other two were they were 8-bit. You know, you can't exactly expect them to have like rich dialogue systems, right?
I mean, Super Metroid has Samus talking to the audience, but
okay,
it's
and
at
yeah,
the beginning of the game, so
that.
it's
Silent protagonist.
framing
Silent
device.
protagonist, like her speech in her monologues is non-diegetic. It is not happening in universe. She is not speaking it out loud to someone else. She is internally thinking about these things, and also they're being relayed to you in a diary format. That is not speech. That is inner monologue.
that's a framing device.
Yes.
It's basically like, you know, Prime in the European version. Prime has a little framing device too. In the opening cutscene, there's a narrator. It's still not a very cinematic game because of that. It just eases you into the story. It's basically a dude telling you, okay, listen up, dipshit.
Samus is under
The story,
fire.
The story is about. No, it doesn't even say that. That's the Smash Brothers version.
Samus is under fire. I love
I know
that.
you don't. I know you don't like the Prime narration, but it's considerably more tasteful than Samus is under fire.
Yeah, yeah. I
But
actually
my
I've only
point.
heard it like once, but I just didn't like it at all. So that's why I kind of avoid the PAL version, like the
The
play.
good thing is, with the remaster, you can freely choose. I
Yeah.
played it with voice work the first time, and I finished it a second time now,
Mm-hmm.
on hard with dual sticks and no narration.
Cool. It's only on the intro, right?
The intro and the outro, because
Okay.
it's a framing device.
Yeah. It
Uh,
frames
it
the experience.
helps you enter into the experience, and it leads you out again.
Yeah.
I don't
So,
mind it. I
yeah.
still think it's more pure and tasteful with no narration, but really, it's almost like a little bit of poetry to
Yeah.
frame it all.
The whole yeah.
It's
whole
not the
idea of
dude telling you the story. He's just introducing you to the
yeah.
story.
I was gonna say the whole idea of silent protagonist rule. I went into it on my Samus's character section in my big video.
Yeah.
It helps you so far in making sure that the distance between you and Samus is as minimal as possible, so where you are Samus when you play the game.
Yes. Yes.
And it also, I think it kind of complements her characterization as well. Like, what does she need to say really in these games? Now, of course, there's a conversation happening here in Fusion, but that's as a result of whatever with the Adam situation, right?
Yes.
But I take issue with it when they just kind of have her speaking for no reason, because it's like we have had Prime 2 and Prime 3 in which she doesn't say anything to anyone, even when you would think as a normal person you would say something to someone. She has her own way of expressing those same things non-verbally. She will nod at characters. She will wave her hand at characters. She will thumbs up characters. She will write to characters mission complete at the end of Prime 3. But
Yes.
she will not really speak. And
She will
that's been
do.
kind of a staple.
She will be characterized by the games in such way where little to no disconnect is created between the character and the player.
Exactly. And you
And also,
yeah.
this is a bit of a fallacy, but I'm just gonna say it anyway. A silent Samus may not necessarily be a strict rule, but if you just want to look at what happens if you ignore the rule, well, the voiced games, so to say, would be Fusion, Other M, and Dread. Look what you get.
Yeah.
The silent
You don't
protagonist
get a
games
whole
are
lot.
NES Metroid, Super Metroid, and the Prime Trilogy. Yeah, I think I can see which approach has worked better for the series and its story.
Just in general, yeah. I think she's a stronger character when she doesn't speak, because she lets
Also-
her actions speak for her.
And I've gotten so much shit for this in certain Metroid communities I'm not gonna name. I'm gonna say it. The personality and character of Samus Aran is not necessarily integral to the Metroid experience and the series.
Another true statement. Yeah.
Look at Prime. The main character in Metroid Prime, when you just look at the amount of characterization given, is Talon 4. And its inhabitants being the somewhat extinct Chozo and the very active
The
pirates.
most fleshed out characters in Prime are the Chozo and pirates.
Yes.
That is absolutely true. And
I
Prime
would
2,
totally.
you can say the same about you can make a similar case for Prime 2 and Prime 3.
Yes.
Zero
and to
Mission
a certain
even.
degree, Super
Well,
Metroid.
no, Samus gets the most characterization in Zero Mission, but it is this sort of tasteful characterization where you don't need her to come in here and you know give a speech or anything.
Planet Zebes has lots of character in Zero Mission, like pirates landing while you are on your mission, and then them just kind of spreading out, and
I
you know,
suppose
like you can
it's not much, but it's something.
there's that whole area which is like slimy because these huge maggots are nesting there, and later you get to fight the mama fly which is around there.
That's
All
cool.
these shows structures.
Again, like it's I think it's kind of sitting next to Super Metroid in that, where it's minimal, but there's something there, but it's not like as intensely character driven as something like Prime, you know.
No, not as much as that. No.
So I don't want to like make Zero Mission and Super into something that they aren't, you know. Just,
No, but
just to kind of
I'm
try
s-
to yeah.
I'm still saying, even in those games, the planet and its character has a bigger focus than Samus and her character. I would totally play a Metroid game without Samus.
Yeah,
If Samus
that's a
had
thing.
died after Dread,
The
or maybe
essential
she
things.
leaves.
The thing is like okay, so yeah, I mean everyone has a disagreement on this, but the essential things to the Metroid series is not just Samus, the weaponry, the characters, all of that. It's the fundamental like concept of this exploring this new alien world and uncovering things and all of that. I feel like
It's
that's
a game.
what's truly the core of the series.
It's a
You
game
could have a
design philosophy.
you could have a Metroid game taking place on freaking Star Wars Hoth. You're playing as
Yeah.
Boba Fett, and you will have a similar feel to every other Metroid game.
Hollow Knight is already pretty close.
Yeah. Oh, that's something interesting. We can talk about Hollow Knight after the podcast, but I had some thoughts on it.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm gonna hit play.
Yes.
She speaks in Super, Fusion, Zero Mission, Other M, technically Prime 3, and Dread.
I think when he said Prime 3, he's talking about Mission Complete.
Maybe, I mean, if you're being really pedantic, even Metroid Prime has Samus's notes in some of the scans, so.
She writes
we all-
stuff down sometimes. Okay.
But let's get real. That's
Yeah.
not what we're talking about.
We're
Let's
talking
not-
dialogue.
let's
We're
not-
talking speech.
Let's not get
Yeah.
pedantic. There's a very clear
Anyway.
difference on how Samus is portrayed in Prime and Super in comparison to Fusion and Other M and even Dread.
Yeah.
Of these games I feel that Fusion presents the most interesting Samus. Samus is introspective, brave, confident, and selfless. She is more than willing to give her life for the greater good of all mankind. Samus reflects on events throughout the game, and these are some of my favorite parts of the story.
I think they're fine.
Really wish we got more of these.
Yeah, moments where she's just reflecting on things. That's cool. I think what it does is it tells us where her head is at, though. Like her focusing so much on Adam does tell me like, okay, this is something that really like is sticking with her, you know.
What I can't understand is how Samus gets all emotional by calling out the Federation. She's with
Here's where I think it's like either like you're gonna have a split between the people who look at the story. Either you're going to go by strictly only what the wording says about the story, or you're going to make inferences based on the subtext of the fact that they're choosing to say these things in the first place. You know?
Yeah.
witnessing what will amount to the end of all known life in the universe, and she's actually able to compose herself very well and remain focused and determined to do the right thing. This is the opposite of overly emotional. She's showing her ability to remain focused on the greater good above all else.
And she lets it slip that she calls the computer Adam.
Well, I mean, there you go, seeing how like there's some emotions coming to the surface where she calls computer Adam, like as if she's arguing with Adam. I believe that this is like a moment where she's kind of conflating the computer with Adam in her mind.
Yes.
She is so fixated on her memories of him that she compares the computer's treatment of her to how Adam would have treated her. She doesn't like it when people hurt her feelings.
How dare you?
How dare I? How dare you?
And I was proud of that edit. I like it.
Yeah, I like it too.
She prefers it when they soften the blow. Fusion Samus sounds like she hasn't moved on from her CO's death, despite
If you weren't aware, you just go watch my video. You'll see what the edit is.
the many adventures she's been on, and hasn't matured emotionally despite the awful shit she survived through.
You are literally making this up. She said he would have softened the blow. Where does it indicate that Samus is whining about her feelings?
So yeah, and here's where it kind of confuses me that how do you take that line and not conclude that she's getting upset about her feelings, softening the blow.
You could see it like that. She is just analyzing. She's saying he is somewhat like Adam, this AI, but not completely, since Adam would have softened the blow. Without saying, like, I wish it would have softened the blow, but that seems to be the implication and intention of the writer.
No such compassion could exist in that machine. Something along those lines. Something about its cruelty. I'm paraphrasing probably because I don't have the script in front of me. But something along those lines. So it kind of just gives more credence to the fact that she really cares whether or not he softens the blow.
The question is, if you have your character make this comparison between the AI and the real Adam, why would you choose Samus to make the comparison using this specific example? You could have used anything.
Okay, here's what it says. The real Adam would have said the same thing about the incident, but he would have softened the blow. He was relentless in his criticism, but he always cared. He was not a machine obsessed with duty. No such compassion could exist in that computer. Now, of course, this could be just an objective statement where she doesn't actually care whether or not the computer is being cold, but then you got to ask why she's bringing it up.
I'm asking, why does the writer have Samus bring this up?
Well, same question. You're just pulling it back a layer.
Yeah.
But the answer to that is going to be the same.
Am I supposed to take it that there was no intention? Because then the writing is kind of cruel. Lazy, you know?
Yeah. No,
because
you can't take this and assume there was no intention, because the way it's written, you know there's something going on here. There's something they're trying to portray to you.
Ideally, in a story, you want to cut everything out that doesn't progress the story. Now, of course, that's an ideal. You're never gonna get there, but still, that's a whole chunk of dialogue which wasn't technically necessary, but it's still here. So we need to be allowed as players to ask, what is this about? What are we supposed to take from it?
Think about this. This is immediately after her leaving the navigation room to go to an elevator. It almost feels like she's stomping off and sulking to herself, because she does, like, basically raise her voice or whatever, or not even raise her voice. Let's see, where does it say? You shouldn't have done that. You ignored your orders. Are you saying blah blah blah? So no, she is kind of objecting to the computer, and then the computer's like, no, you must obey. And so then, yeah, she goes to the elevator, and it's like she's off sulking, and this is what's going through her head right now. The computer was not as nice to her as Adam would have been. That's what's on her mind. So to think that doesn't affect her, that she's not getting emotional over that, I think you gotta be not able to see what's right in front of you.
She's basically saying the computer is an asshole when she shouldn't care about such things.
Yeah. Anyway, so to me it's as clear as day. And even if you don't agree, you can see how I would come to that conclusion. You can see how I would think that. And so yeah.
It's a valid interpretation.
Anyway.
She is indeed comparing this Adam to the Adam she knew, but the whole point is that she's contrasting how different they are.
I believe this is how I always interpreted it. Maybe I put some more thought into it since I was analyzing the game. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure this was always my interpretation.
Despite the computer actually being an AI clone of Adam, Samus consistently puts the greater good first. But in
we're not saying she doesn't do the right thing. Like, even in other M's, Samus does the right thing, right?
Yeah.
Towards the end, she's always like the hero, right? She's always doing the selfless thing.
Even in Dread, when she loses control over herself, she's flipping out against the biggest asshole of the universe and saves the universe once more. So that's not an issue.
The issue is like the portrayal of her character is not consistent with what we know about her.
Yeah.
Elevator scene where she makes no mention of her feelings being hurt. You grossly...
Right. You know, she doesn't out loud say, my feelings were hurt, but, you know, if you can't make inferences, what can you do, you know?
You need to cut to that famous scene from Futurama here.
You can't just have your characters announce how they feel. That makes me feel angry.
Or have Samus holding up the sign that says, I am stoic.
Yes.
You call Samus emotionally immature, but where does this come from? Samus...
I mean, I guess I just kind of said where it comes
Explain.
from.
Contrasting the two Adams is no indication of Samus failing to move on from Adam's death. The game already told us in plain English exactly why Samus named this computer Adam.
Hold on a second.
You seem
Pause,
to...
please. The game told us in plain English. I thought English wasn't canon. I thought we need plain Japanese.
Well, only with the
So
one.
what is it
We only
now?
need to play the Japanese version to clear up one plot point, because otherwise the games are absolutely identical and the translation was perfect.
Okay, yeah, I see.
But anyway, so he's telling us what he's saying is you need to trust what the character says about the reasons why they do what they do, and you shouldn't be making inferences based on their actions of what their actual reasons are.
Yes.
Ignore canon and project other...
You know, what the character said was canon, the inference you drew was not canon.
Samus onto Fusion. This might be why you think of this story as a children's cartoon.
Convenient that consciousness can just...
And I think I'm starting to think, I think it's a children's cartoon because it's as well written as one.
There are better written children.
Maybe I didn't say that out loud during my Fusion section, but there you go.
be uploaded to computers, and that the computer just happened to have Adam's specific consciousness on it. Regardless, his death is completely reversed. The opportunity...
Maybe I'm stepping over too far, saying it's as well written as a children's cartoon, but at least, you know, DuckTales was well written.
to show Samus's growth and reinforce the themes of the series is squandered.
Once the ship's computer
once we get to the animals thing, I have some interesting stuff to say.
Is revealed to contain a copy of Adam's consciousness, you seem to forget that Adam has been in the GFS for a long time and is a high-ranking member of their military. You say that by bringing back a version of Adam, the game has squandered an opportunity to reinforce themes of the series. I have to assume that you are referring to Samus remaining strong through loss, but Samus has shown that through the whole game.
I don't know if there's a lot of showing. There is, she mentions that she had a loss, and then I think the next time we hear about it, no, there is a bit more mention of Adam after she mentions that she named the computer after Adam, but it's not really portrayed that she's like carrying this burden with her, you know? There's no like moment where you're like, wow, she's grown a lot since then, you know? Or she's really strong to have all these this loss and you know, pull through. It's like you get the one mention, and from that you kind of conclude, well, it's obviously matters to her still. Anyway.
She has been strong with things such as setting aside her distaste for following orders in order to protect humanity, her heroism of once again facing tremendous and threats far more massive than ever seen before, or her...
I wonder, is the X a greater threat than Phazon?
Hmm. I
That's
think
just
they're
that's just a nerd
comparable.
question. Yeah, just a nerd
If you
question for you.
if you let both of them loose, they will just eventually have consumed everything, and what will be left would either be X or Phazon. So,
Yeah, both of them are a threat to the entire universe and all life in it. So, I suppose you could say the X is not the greatest threat that she has ever faced in the series. It is a threat that is at most on par with Phazon.
Her focus on the greater good through the GF's betrayal. I think this game perfectly captures Samus's character, better than any Metroid game before or since.
No, I think the Prime games did better. She has a stoicism about her, right? A a maturity, right?
yeah, I also just really like my Kuleshov shots in Prime, which you don't get here because she's talking over it when you have like the elevator scenes.
Her body language, all of the
Yeah,
scenes
and
of her
just
like just reacting to danger in just the most like methodical, competent way that you can imagine.
and the implied significance and meaning you pull from the context.
Yeah.
Because if she comes into a room, her being herself while so much stuff around her is happening tells us a lot about her. Like, for example, when she's entering the room of Fardis in Metroid Prime, the most enormous giant rocky golem emerges in front of her, and she is standing there, watching it.
Quadraxis, the Metroid Prime itself, even.
Yes. She runs after the fucking thing after it buries away. She's like, I came to
She's
fight.
like, no, not this time, motherfucker. Get back here.
This is our destiny.
Yeah.
Even the Shozo knew it. They
Yeah,
have foreseen
I
it.
think her characterization was perfected in the Prime trilogy. Super Metroid does a lot to set it up, you know. And
Yes.
Prime just kind of just carries that forward. It was my opinion that Fusion mostly it's mostly there her character, but
Yes.
these little like emotional moments and things like that kind of like are just kind of insecurities that I don't believe she would have at this point in time,
True. But it's
right?
still mostly consistent with how other games would portray
Mostly,
Samus.
I
There's
I don't
not
have
a
as
big
much problem with Fusion Samus as I have with other M and especially Dread
no.
Samus.
No. Fusion Samus is not contradictory to every other Samus we value so much.
It just kind of leans her in a particular direction where I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, sure, you know.
At least it's fitting to the theme because uh, you start a game of Fusion and immediately she's like, this mission is unresting me. I know something is off. I don't really want to do this, but I need to. Let's hope everything is just fine, you know?
Yeah.
So it's fitting in Fusion. It's not too bad. It's done well enough.
Yeah. I mean, well enough. That's really the thing.
Adam being an AI works fantastically because he cannot actually help Samus beyond vague guidance, beyond that she truly is alone on that station.
The thing is, he gives you so much information, so much useful information that like the idea of feeling threat is lessened to a great degree. I guess I couldn't say it was zero, but it is lessened.
Yes,
He warns you
I
about
mean,
hot rooms. He warns you about the SAX. He warns you about Sarah's. He warns you about Ice X. He warns you about the
he's
nightmare.
he's saying because Adam is an AI and not a character who could follow you around, he's not much help. But really, no character would be help to Samus Aran. The kind of mission she undertakes,
He
people
does a
just
lot to
like us.
tangibly help you. Actually, like
No,
the
I'm
best things he
yes,
can give
but
you is the information, and also he doesn't he like do some like stuff with the station at some point.
yeah, but by
He sends
saying
data to download rooms. You know.
true, but by saying he can't really help you because he's not a human, he's implying he could have helped you if he actually was a human. And I don't believe that for a second. Like the kind of mission
Yeah.
Samus
No,
undertakes,
he would have taken the
every
same role as in Other M.
every human would just die. You don't follow Samus around along. Like she can take a
She's
like
there
a
to be the
nuclear
tank.
grenade.
Yeah, she is
Yeah.
the spearhead of all of this. Yeah.
What the
You
fuck
can
are
play
you gonna
cleanup
do?
for her after the fact, but like you ain't helping her unless you're a super soldier.
What are you gonna do if she takes a bath in Phazon to heal herself, or just walks casually through
Like
lava
you
and
literally
acid
have to
for
be a
minute?
Marvel superhero to help her out.
Yes, yes. Like maybe the bounty hunters from Corruption could have followed her, but
Oh
they
yeah.
they succumbed to the Phazon corruption. They weren't
That's the
strong
thing.
enough.
Like they're not. The thing is, no, with especially fusion, it's a situation that only Samus can go in there
True, right?
because of
the
that
the
ability
real
she's been
Adam,
given.
yeah, the real Adam would have been infected within minutes and would have just died on the spot.
Right. You can have airtight armor and it will still get through. Like that's what it's shown
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
When trust starts to fizzle between Samus and Adam, the stakes of the story are raised even higher by
The trust fizzles very
They
late
never
in
really-
the experience.
Wait, Samus never truly trusted the robot from the beginning anyway.
Did she?
I mean, she only took the orders because the Federation wouldn't give her a ship otherwise, right?
No, yeah, you're right about that. But I'm saying like you're still not inclined to believe that your best interests are not at heart with Adam until like towards the very end of the game.
True, yes. Yes.
Samus being completely alone by the climax. Adam gives Samus a chance to speak and think to help the player better understand her character while also serving the purpose of creating tension in the story.
You want to rewind that sentence and see if we can get that again?
Yeah, and maybe we should take a break afterwards because we've been talking for 2 hours and 42 minutes now.
Okay.
Maybe I'd be up for another episode tomorrow, so let's...
Okay. Well, we can finish off Fusion at least because it's like done at like close, like the 52-minute mark or something like that.
Okay, let's do Fusion.
Okay.
The climax. Adam gives Samus a chance to speak and think to help the player better understand her character while also serving the purpose of creating tension in the story.
It's the little critters that escape the habitat who are piloting the ship. So in addition to the flat villain motivations and reversal of death, we have basic animals who can pilot spaceships. Are you sure this isn't open season? We're running on the logic of children's cartoons at this point. Next, I'd expect that Samus and Adam live happily ever after and name their first child Septog. Now I'm aware that the animals piloted a ship at the end of Super Metroid, but this game draws attention to that weird detail.
It doesn't become not okay in Fusion but okay in Super because only Fusion calls attention to it.
Come on.
All right, so I wanna.
No.
Huh?
No, don't engage in that argument. Yes, of course, it's a bigger issue if the whole story hinges on it. In Super Metroid, it's just an Easter egg.
There's that, and there's also it's so much more clear what the fuck is going on. Like with Super Metroid, you could have at least, if you were gonna make a sequel to Super Metroid, you had the opportunity to make it like an escape pod or something. So here's my question: does the Metroid universe seem like the type of universe where animals would have the ability to pilot spaceships? Just basic animals, no training or anything.
No, of course not. Maybe a Luminov, but he is not an animal. He is
a person.
Civilized being. Yes, he's
Yeah.
a person. He's humanoid. He's like us. And
Yeah.
maybe these animals are really smart. Maybe they're like primates. Maybe even
But
smarter.
here's the thing:
maybe...
they are new to piloting. They are creatures who have grown up on Zebas, and they are scavengers. They are like bottom of the food chain kind of creatures.
You know, just travel back 200 years in time, yeah? And talk to the greatest minds of human civilization that lived 200 years ago. people who are gonna outsmart both of us, right?
Exactly.
They're not gonna be able to drive a car.
True. So you're
No
saying
chance in hell.
regardless of intelligence, there's just no experience
True.
or expertise.
You know, the most cars I have driven in my life are old cars because I like old cars. Whenever I get to drive a new car, the first thing I need to ask is like, where the fuck do I start the motor?
I always
I would-
imagine in Fusion.
I just need to find the button.
I always imagine this scene taking place in Fusion where, you know, Adam's supposed to be the one prompting them to pilot the ship. He's like got them in there. They're like jumping on the walls. They're making a mess in the kitchen. They're throwing food everywhere. They're like leaving feathers all over the couch, and he's like, "Everyone, calm down. We need you to pilot this spaceship. All right, we need you to sit at the console. Stop poking your brother. Okay, sit at the console.
Okay,
All right, you need to flip the on switch. Yeah,
press the start engine button now. I said press it, don't take a dump on it. But if you dump on it, dump so much onto it that it presses down the button, please. Yeah, that will do. Thank you.
like." You know,
Also,
it's like monkeys. You're literally trying to get monkeys to pilot a spaceship.
Maybe fusion happened in very many parallel universes. Maybe fusion happened like 1 million times, and every single time Samus died because the Metroid at the end destroyed her ship. Except for that one universe, because if you get a million monkeys on a typewriter, they will eventually type a novel or something.
Do you watch Varg Skeletor on Twitch or anything like that? Are you familiar with his streams? Joel,
sometimes I watch his Windows destruction videos in the couple of.
So he's had this series called Monkey Mondays that he does, where he goes into Gmod, he starts playing like Half-Life 2 or Portal 1 or whatever, and he gets a bunch of people in there with monkey player models, and they just have monkey sounds playing in their mics and all of that, and they're just throwing bananas everywhere, and he's like, "Everyone calm down, we gotta solve this puzzle. All right, put the blue portal there. No, stop. It's so funny, dude." That's like the kind of vibes
basically.
I'm getting from that's what the kind of vibes I'm getting from from the Adam and the animals,
Also,
trying to get them to pilot the spaceship.
Also, Adam is like the most naive and trustworthy AI ever. There's a couple animals out there and they are like, "We're not infected," and Adam is like, "Well, I guess you can enter the ship." And then in Red, a Shozo comes and the Shozo is like, "I am infected," and Adam is like, "Well, you can come in anyway."
Wait,
I think you're cool.
No, you're right. Oh my god. The fucking
Just imagine if a fucking space pirate was there. He's like, "Yeah, I'm the only good space pirate. You can leave me in." And then the space pirate is just gonna wait for Samus to arrive and stab her in the back.
My
with a
god.
knife.
All right. So anyway, it's dumb. I think it was dumb in Super Metroid, but at least you could have recontextualized it in a later game to like make it not dumb.
Also, it necessarily wasn't canon yet in Super Metroid. Maybe kill the animals was canon.
Exactly.
Up until Fusion came and made a huge deal out of their survival.
Like I get that. Like I think with retrospect, we're all looking at Super Metroid with the context of Fusion in mind. But with retrospect, like, did you really want to assume that it was the animals piloting a spaceship at the end of Super Metroid before Fusion came out? Is that really the only interpretation you could have gone with?
In Metroid Prime 3 Corruption, you can unlock little Mii wobbleheads for your spaceship, right?
Okay.
You remember that?
Yeah.
As a little Easter egg, you could have your Mii character with a big head shaking on Samus's dashboard.
Yeah.
That's just an Easter egg. We don't have a problem with that, right?
Oh, you're
but
saying
now
like
imagine Prime 4 comes out and it's the opening intro and a huge boulder starts rolling towards Samus and she can't move. She's stuck in a door. She's gonna die.
But the bobblehead will free her.
But the bobblehead is in the way and the boulder hits it and changes direction, and
That's
then she's
silly.
like, "Gee, great! I've had this bobblehead for Metroid Prime 3
That's kind of the
Corruption with
equivalent
me."
of what we're doing here with the animals, huh?
Yeah, that would be stupid. Don't do that.
Where yeah, like this kind of cheeky ending moment like is kind of given its own plot significance, and it's still just as stupid as it was before, but now it's like super in your face about it. Anyway,
Questioning the Metroid universe's logic can lead to issues like this.
and he's using language like, okay, why is it okay in Super and not okay in Fusion and stuff like that, where it's like, I guess I never said okay in Super and not okay in Fusion. Like, there's more nuance than that typically with my points.
There's also more nuance to the difference between Super and Fusion, as we just discussed.
Yes.
Fusion has a whole mission for you to go save the animals, and then Adam calls you back to go take a look at the animals. And then there's a twist with, look, these animals flying the ship. It's like, look, everybody, these monkeys are really smart and they can drive a car.
Pretty smart ants. That's an Ant-Man quote.
This everywhere.
Yes.
Applying real-world science is impossible, but this is a very weird time to start
And-
trying.
It's not a real world science thing. It's just like a storytelling thing. Like, that's dumb. That's just dumb.
Yeah.
If they can do it in Super, they can do it in Fusion.
And
Okay.
yeah, we already went over that.
You're
Yeah,
telling
yeah.
me that one tiny space station can destroy an entire planet? Was it filled with nuclear warheads? Super Metroid establishes that to blow up a planet, you need a bomb deep beneath the surface. I suppose that's not a problem anymore now that you can just...
The ship
I was
has
kind of proud of that edit. It was the Star Wars, yeah.
a self-destruct sequence that detonated at the time that the BSL made contact with the planet.
Well, no, I understand there was a self-destruct sequence, right? Because I was saying, like, it was the self-destruct sequence just literally a bunch of nukes. Like, I think the nukes wouldn't have even destroyed the planet, would they? If it was just a bunch of them in one place, it would have been
mean-
like, you know, that scene in Kirby that like where like part of the moon is just exploded, or even Sonic, right?
To destroy a planet would be very difficult to do. Even smaller planets are
And-
huge.
Yeah.
To be fair, the Metroid series is kind of pushing that. Samus has it really easy
The
blowing
thing
up
is,
planets.
I think here's my opinion. I think they should never have done that shit again after Super Metroid. Like,
Yes, agreed.
that's a very drastic thing. You need to feel the weight of what that is. And at the very least, we had in Super Metroid, the time bomb was unspecified. You don't know what it had in it. You don't know how big it was.
Maybe
you don't know
the
where
crazy
it was.
pirates just filled the entire core of the planets with some explosive or something.
Right, and they were the crazy. It was the space pirates, remember? So, like,
Yes.
yeah, if they could rig the planet to blow, they would rig the planet to blow.
Yes.
The
Also, Face
thing
is
is-
a living planet. It blowing up is basically it just dying, like a cell disintegrating.
It's already like it's already like on the edge of believability, right?
Yes.
Super Metroid.
Yes.
I'm not even gonna defend Super Metroid in that, but the fact that we've repeated it two times at least is stupid.
Well,
I
the
feel
whole
like that kind of drastic maneuver should be saved for like a one-time scenario in your entire like storytelling
the thing is,
arc.
many of the Metroid games, especially the 2D Metroid games, like to paint threats so huge and great that you really can only fix the issue by just blowing up the entire planet. You cannot resolve the conflict of fusion without making sure that every X is dead. And since they stem from SR388, you need to blow up that planet.
I mean, if that's your issue, you can ride around that. You don't have to make the threat.
Yeah, but
like,
we can, but they can't apparently. Look at how Retro did it. if you destroy a Leviathan in a Metroid Prime game, then there's still a lot of Phazon around. It's still radioactive, it's still dangerous, but it can't spread anymore. The planet will heal, you solve the issue, just leave and wait for the grass to grow over it.
Yeah. It'll the Leviathan being killed, such as the Metroid Prime being killed, the Ing Guardian being killed, or the anything in Prime 3 being killed. The planet is now cleansed.
Yes.
And you have now eliminated all of the evil in that area. And so with Metroid, like, how could you, like, Metroid NES, they had a decent scope with that. You destroy Torian, and that's kind of like the base inside of Zebes, right? It's Torian.
Yes.
That's all that gets destroyed, and you can still have your cute escape sequence, and the stakes aren't like so high that you now are running into stupidity.
You know what it is? The manufacturer who built the BSL is probably the same firm which built Ravenbeak's ship, because when that fell from the sky, the whole planet also blew up.
And here comes a giant fist. No, Patrick!
That's why it blew up.
Anyway.
If you don't think
that's my opinion. I think that's my official opinion on the planet explosion now. It's just too drastic. You should not have repeated that past Super Metroid, and even Super Metroid was pushing
massive space station is big enough to blow up a planet, then how big was the bomb in Super Metroid? We don't...
Unspecified. That's all I'm...
No, because it doesn't matter. Ignoring these questions...
It doesn't matter, meaning you can make the bomb small as fuck, and we don't care.
He doesn't care, so
that's the logic.
He doesn't care, so you're not allowed to care.
Okay, then.
in Super, but holding fusion under the scientifically accurate microscope will make fusion look bad, but nobody is expecting this game to be realistic.
I would like it to be plausible, though. Plausible, please.
I don't know. I don't think I mentioned the planet explosion in Super, and you could say, well, it was my obligation to mention it and mention how stupid it is. I guess so. I guess I could have done that. But I didn't say that it was all good. I didn't, say that X is okay in Super and not okay in Fusion, right? I mean, I think he's kind of making that assumption based on our past interactions, and so I say that's fair. It's fair to assume that I'll defend Super based on our past interactions, because when you're just grilled on something like so soon after you've like made a video on it and everything, you're gonna kind of give like the shortest, easiest answers. You're not, at least for me,
Yeah.
Anyway. I guess let's put that behind us. Let's continue.
Again, your criteria changes from game to game. That concludes this segment about Metroid Fusion. I think that Fusion segment was really something. Anyways, let's jump ahead to the main course. Timdos's segment.
Okay, so this is where we start talking about Dread. So we may save this for the next podcast.
Yeah.
I guess we'll just go to bed, and then when I wake up, we're just gonna do the next part.
I'm not sure when I'm gonna wake up. I need some sleep. But yeah, I don't have much plans tomorrow, I believe. So
yeah, me neither. Well, okay, I'm gonna have to be out of my house by like 1, but. I think we can still fit in an episode. We'll get it in there.
Yeah, just text me, dude.
Yep. Thanks everybody for watching. We've had a pretty good time, and I'm feeling good about this series. I was feeling kind of like uneasy, just like not really sure what I wanted to do, and I think I kind of just settled back into, we're just making this as a discussion. We're not trying to like do any sort of anything else. Anyway, I'm kind of like just rambling at this point. So anyway,
good night, everyone.
Good night. See you next week, I guess. We'll space these a week apart. That'll be fine.
Yeah.